am who I am because I value my past. The memories of yesterday can never be changed, but they give me a reason to live again. There is a reason I am here today, but there is no reason you lost your lives. You were called abusive names, deprived of rights to be humans, slayed because of who you were born. I am lighting a candle as the sign of resilience. I'm paying a tribute. You left a legacy, and I'm a fruit from the love you sowed. Let's say never again to genocide. There should be no war. There should be no genocide. Anyway, let's say never again to genocide. Let's say never again to genocide. I was young, I still needed you, but you were taken away from me too soon. If I had one wish, it would be seeing you again. Today we're strong men and women, even though you are not here to see. We're carrying on to make you feel proud out there, watching down on us. I am lighting a candle as the sign of resilience. I'm paying a tribute. You left a legacy, and I'm a fruit from the love you sowed. Let's say never again to genocide. There should be no war. There should be no genocide. Anyway, let's say never again to genocide. Let's say never again to genocide. I am a witness that if you and I come together as one, we can make sure genocide never happens again. History should be told and passed on to further generations. Let's all stand up and all sing out, never again to genocide. Let's say never again to genocide. There should be no war. There should be no genocide. Anyway, let's say never again to genocide. Let's say never again to genocide. We are here as one nation. We say never again. We unite as human race. We say never again to genocide. Never again to genocide. Never again
Good evening and welcome. We are approaching the dying minutes of the first quarter of the year 2025, and this has been a very strategic one for the nation and the people of Ambazonia. Much has been attained under just 90 days from the level of diplomacy, homeland security, and also advocacy. So much Ambazonians would like to be reminded of. We have a kind of a resume of what has happened this year. But before we even get into the depths and the breadth and the width of those things that would have happened this year, Tabitha Ako is in the studio with Dr. Fred Lobati, Barrister Tim Mbeseha, Barrister Fru John Nsoh, and Commander Elvis to process some stories. Right after that, we'll begin our debate. Stay tuned. I'm calling all those who are watching us on Facebook, on YouTube, and every social media platform that you find yourself there now, to share and to tell somebody we're live.
A catastrophic earthquake has struck Myanmar and Thailand, leaving death and devastation in its wake. As rescue teams scramble to save lives, survivors are calling for urgent international assistance. Will the global community step up, or will these countries be left to fend for themselves? These and many more recent happenings from the home front with my remarkable guest, Barrister Mbeseha, Dr. Lobati, and Commander Elvis will be explored in today's Flash News. Good evening and welcome. I am Tabitha Ako. Let's begin. A powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake struck Myanmar on Friday, shaking Southeast Asia and leaving behind a trail of devastation. The quake centered near Mandalay, Myanmar's second largest city, struck at approximately 1:30 p.m. local time at a depth of 6 miles. According to U.S. Geological Survey, just 11 minutes later, a 6.7 magnitude aftershock followed, amplifying the destruction. Initial reports indicate at least 150 deaths, with hundreds more injured, though the final toll could be significantly higher. As the region grapples with the aftermath, one critical question emerges: is the international community prepared to respond to a disaster of this magnitude in a politically isolated nation? The USGS warned that high casualties and extensive damage are probable and the disaster is likely widespread. Predictive analysis suggests that the death toll could exceed 10,000, considering the quake's strength and depth. Myanmar's ruling military general Min Aung Hlaing confirmed at least 140 fatalities, cautioning that numbers could rise as more information comes in. With the nation's military government tightly controlling information, how reliable are these initial casualty figures? Min Aung Hlaing, appealing for international support, announced that roads for foreign assistance have been opened. Offers of help from India and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations have already been accepted. Notably, U.S. President Donald Trump pledged Americans assistance, labeling the quake as real bad one. Myanmar's military spokesperson Zam Min made a public appeal for medical supplies and blood donations, citing so many injuries across 3 major cities. Given the military's past reluctance to accept aid, will this openness signal a new approach or prove to be just a temporary concession in the face of overwhelming need? Let's take a look at this video on the scene, the video of the earthquake. Can we have that? A scary sight right there. In Thailand, at least 10 people have been confirmed dead and over 100 are still missing, with local officials warning that if their toll may climb. Thailand's Prime Minister reassured the public that the affected area is limited in scope, allowing many residents to return to their homes. However, Bangkok, located over 600 miles from the epicenter, felt the quake's force as buildings swayed and swimming pools overflowed. Right there on your screen, the city, home to 17 million people, saw a partial evacuation, with local crews working to rescue those trapped under collapsed structures. Right on your screen, stories of tragedies are emerging from the rubble. In Bangkok, 23-year-old Noe had recently started working at a collapsed high-rise when disaster struck. Her aunt Natida stood by the wreckage, tearfully hoping for a miracle. However, rescue operations continue as hopes dim for those still trapped. In Myanmar, communication issues hamper relief efforts. Also, the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reported significant damage, with troops from anti-junta militias offering humanitarian aid too. Zin Maraang of the National Unity Government highlighted the urgent need for technical assistance and the challenges posed by internet restrictions imposed by the military. Given Myanmar's strained political climate and ongoing civil conflict, can humanitarian efforts overcome these obstacles to reach those in need? It's really a pathetic situation right there. Meanwhile, the International Rescue Committee has expressed concerns over Myanmar's ability to handle the crisis, noting that the country was already resource limited before the disaster. IRC's Myanmar Director Mohamed Riaz warned that meeting the needs of the injured could severely strain available resources. Analysts fear a repeat of 2008 when Cyclone Nagis killed over 130,000 people, and the government was slow to accept foreign aid. Are Myanmar's leaders ready to prioritize humanitarian needs over political considerations? Or will history repeat itself? Think about that. However, seismic experts believe the quake likely occurred on the Sajan Fault, notorious for destructive potential similar to California's San Andreas Fault. Tectonics expert Rebecca Bell noted that shallow quakes like these can cause severe surface shaking, making densely populated areas particularly vulnerable. As regional operation becomes very crucial for disaster response, can neighboring countries put aside political differences to address the human cost of this catastrophe effectively? Well, we know that a lot of people are being injured and many are dead already. This calls for urgent humanitarian aid and international assistance. Moving forward, in a bold statement that has stirred international debate, U.S. President Donald Trump asserted that the United States must take over Greenland for the sake of world peace. Speaking to reporters at the White House, President Trump emphasized that his intention to annex the strategically placed, resource-rich Danish territory goes beyond Americans' interests. But is it truly feasible to claim that controlling Greenland would directly lead to global peace, as they claim, or does this reflect a broader geopolitical strategy? Just in on Friday, Vice President J.D. Vance, accompanied by his wife and other senior U.S. officials, visited an American military base in Greenland. The visit, initially planned on a larger scale, was scaled back after public outrage among Greenland's and Danes, who were upset that the itinerary was set without consulting them. Upon arrival, Vance briefly addressed the U.S. troops stationed at the base, expressing his strong interest in Arctic security. He argued that if the United States did not assert leadership in the region, major powers like China and Russia will fill the vacuum. I think there's like a battle already. Also basing his argument on the leadership of Denmark, which has underinvested in Greenland and its security architecture, he emphasized that this situation must change, and that the United States intends to lead the change. However, does this stance undermine Denmark's sovereignty over its own territory, and could it damage U.S.-Danish relations? Let's take a look at this video of Vice President J.D. Vance in Denmark.
A missile was fired from an enemy country or an enemy submarine into the United States, it is the people here before us who would give notice to our brave men and women further south in the United States to let people know what was coming, and God willing to try to shoot it down and prepare for it. That's one of the things that we do at installations like this. We know that Russia and China and other nations are taking an extraordinary interest in Arctic passageways and Arctic naval routes, and indeed in the minerals of the Arctic territories. We need to ensure that America is leading in the Arctic, because we know that if America doesn't, other nations will fill the gap where we fall behind. And unfortunately, the story of Greenland over the past 20 years when it comes to security is that we've underinvested in the infrastructure, we've underinvested in the security architecture, and we've underinvested in the brave men and women who are doing a very hard job, as Mike said, to keep all of us safe. That has to change. Now, when I pointed out a couple of weeks ago that in some ways, with all due respect to our Danish allies, they had not kept pace, there was a lot of criticism from Denmark, a lot of attacks at the Trump administration, at the president, at me, at others in our administration for saying the obvious, which is that Denmark hasn't done a good job at keeping Greenland safe. And
Vice President J.D. Vance right there being enthusiastic about this stance. Well, his visit comes amid strained U.S.-Danish relations, as Trump has repeatedly hinted that the United States should have control over Greenland, a mineral-rich territory under Denmark's sovereignty. The one-day visit to the U.S. Space Force outpost at Pitufik, located on Greenland's northwest coast, aimed to avoid diplomatic conflicts by steering clear of official invitations or encounters with local residents upset by Trump's remarks. The delegation included National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and Energy Secretary Chris Wright, as well as Second Lady Wisha Vance. Well, the timing of the visit was particularly sensitive as it coincided with the formation of a new coalition government in Greenland, established by 4 out of the 5 parties recently elected to parliament. Well, the coalition was formed partly in response to growing concerns over Trump's interest in the island. Meanwhile, back in Newark, the capital, locals expressed mixed reactions to the U.S. delegation. However, Greenland's strategic value lies in its position as a maritime gateway to the Arctic and North Atlantic, making it increasingly attractive to both China and Russia. Trump's renewed interest in acquiring Greenland echoes his first term when he suggested buying the island, despite Denmark's clear refusal. The people of Greenland have also repeatedly dismissed the idea, insisting that their homeland is not for sale. Well, coming to the climax of this report, Vice President J.D. Vance, who is known for his outspoken criticism of European allies relying on U.S. military support, continues to challenge Europe's strategic independence by openly advocating for U.S. control over Greenland. And right there, this raises questions. If the United States is risking long-term alliances with its Nordic partners while pursuing Arctic dominance, these are people who have their homeland, and then we are making projections. But then we hope to see how this unfolds in the coming days. Tonight on the show, and bringing you recent happenings from the home front, we have breaking news and reports which will be explored alongside our amazing commentators. But then that will be right after the break. Ambazonian scholar Ngoran Aristide set a new record in Japan, becoming the first international student to graduate as the best student in civil engineering. Ngoran Aristide is a brilliant Ambazonian from Nsoh, Bui County in the Savannah Zone of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. She has achieved a historic milestone at Tokyo University in Japan, becoming the first international student to graduate as the best student in civil engineering, setting a new record and showcasing the exceptional talent Ambazonians have to offer. Ngoran's outstanding academic performance has earned her a prestigious award, marking a significant achievement not only for her, but for Ambazonia and Africa as a whole. With an overwhelming sense of accomplishment on receiving the award, Ngoran shares that it's an incredible honor and a milestone not just for her, but for all Ambazonians and Africans striving to excel in their academic pursuit. Well, growing up in Ambazonia, Ngoran witnessed firsthand the challenges of inadequate infrastructures, particularly the struggle to maintain unpaved roads in rural areas. This motivated her to pursue civil engineering and seek solutions to the issues affecting her community. In many parts of Ambazonia, roads become impassable during the rainy season, cutting off communities from essential services and economic opportunities. She explains that she wanted to find ways to make our roads more sustainable. I think that's actually a good one at that. Meanwhile, her journey to Japan was fueled by a desire to gain a global perspective and learn from one of the world's most advanced engineering landscapes. However, the road to success was not without its challenges. She recalls one of the biggest hurdles she faced was the language barrier. Although some courses were in English, most were in Japanese. Daily life, research collaboration, and even simple conversations required proficiency in the language, the Japanese language. Ngoran determined not to let these obstacles stand in her way. She took private language lessons, obtained certifications in Japanese modernization, and actively engaged with local students. Her perseverance paid off when she successfully defended her master's degree thesis, titled The Recycle of Paper and Plastic Waste in the Stabilization of Weak Soils for Civil Engineering Construction Projects, especially on paved roads. The research focused on sustainable construction methods, offering innovative solutions for waste management and road durability. Ngoran's goal was to address two major challenges: improving road stability while finding an environmentally friendly way to repurpose waste. She explains, if plastic and paper waste can be used to reinforce weak soils, we can extend the lifespan of unpaved roads and reduce pollution at the same time. A great discovery at that. Ngoran's academic excellence and groundbreaking research led her to this recognition as the most outstanding graduate in civil engineering, an achievement that cements her place as a trailblazer. Ngoran dedicated the award to every Ambazonian and African student striving to break barriers, as she hopes it inspires others to dream big and pursue opportunities beyond their comfort zones. Well, looking ahead, Ngoran aspires to contribute infrastructure development in Ambazonia and Africa by collaborating with international organizations like the United Nations and the African Union. While focusing on her goal to work on sustainable infrastructure projects that improve transportation and economic access for communities, she also hoped to facilitate knowledge exchange between Japan and Ambazonia, bringing innovative engineering solutions to Ambazonia. For young Ambazonians and Africans with big dreams, her message is clear. Be ambitious, be prepared, and be persistent. Success is not about where you come from, it's about how determined you are to achieve your goals. Well, with me tonight, giving us thoughts and perspectives on these issues, is my guests and our commentators and analysts. It's been an honor hosting you all on the show tonight. Barrister Fru You're welcome. Here's a groundbreaking discovery by an Ambazonian state representing the nation. What do you have to say concerning other determined Ambazonians who are committed to bringing this measure of light and joy to the Ambazonian people?
Well, Tabitha, thank you very much for another start today. Thank you for inviting all of us again for brainstorming the news of the day. I want to start by making a declaration that Ambazonians are some of the most educated Africans on the African continent and beyond. And I say this without mincing words because our people have learned to survive and to study hard and to become very well educated in the environment where they are around the world. I take this opportunity to congratulate the young lady Ngoran in Japan, and hoping that she will return after we must have got our independence, so that she can be useful to our people, that she, especially on the issue of roads. We will have to rebuild Ambazonia, and we need young people like Ngoran to return. She's not the only. There are a lot of young people in engineering schools all across the United States who are Ambazonians. A lot of them are Ambazonians. We even have deans of School of Engineering who are Ambazonians. Ambazonians, they excel in science, most especially, and in other professions. That is all I have to say, and we pray and hope that by the time she's returning home, there will be peace for her to be able to help in the development and in the reconstruction of the state of Ambazonia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barrister, for indeed as an outstanding performance. Over to Barrister Mbeseha. Ngoran dedicating this win to Ambazonia is indeed a testament to the Ambazonian spirit. Raising the flag of a nation and a people symbolizes the strength of the Ambazonians. Let me hear your thoughts on this, Barrister Mbeseha.
Well, I think, as Barrister Nsoh says, the young lady is a summary of hard work, success, and then the question mark is, what next? See, if this young lady had to go through the language program in a foreign land in Japan, succeeded in getting what she has, we must tell her congratulations. But having succeeded, she must be deployed in the field to be useful. And so that is what the question is all about now. What next? We have thousands and hundreds of Ambazonians abroad with all wonderful talents that can be useful, but they are useless. Why? Because nobody will get them useful. Nobody will put their talents to work. And so the question is, upon return home, what do we expect of this child? The knowledge will all be in her head. Her certificates will be in her box. And then, what next? If I got you right, her specialty is using recycled material to make good roads. You remember that as we speak, we have a lot of debt lying in Buea, in Bamenda, and every city of Ambazonia. Plastic bottles, and so on and so forth, that could have been recycled. We remember, just last week or early this week, we were talking about roads in Bamenda, a nightmare. Roads to Womb, a nightmare. No road even to Acquire. Yet, we have all this material perishing there without being used. Why? Because in Yaoundé, that purpose to control us, we have a regime which is not just incompetent, it is wicked. Absolutely wicked. Because I remember in the 1990s, more than 30 years ago, Mr. Paul Biya came to Buea and promised to use the waste produced out of Sonora to create a bitumen factory. They'll get bitumen to do what? To fix roads. Today, there's no bitumen factory. The waste from the Sonora is thrown into the ocean. There's no road anywhere in Limbe, Victoria, or wherever you call it. And so this young lady, we can only encourage her that by the time she comes back home, if she would come, we should be in Buea. I will tell her that when she comes to Buea, she's going to meet a politically friendly environment, a technologically friendly environment, where she can put her expertise to work. That alone, expertise, will give people jobs, in addition to making us have the roads, in addition to giving her the credits and the decoration that we shall give her for the good job. Whatever thing she does, when she comes back to Ambazonia, that will create jobs for the ordinary guy who is not an engineer. That is similar to thousands of others who are lotting around the world, who are even hanging in Yaoundé there without a $30,000 francs monthly salary. And so we can only say congratulations to her, congratulations to the parents of those who supported her up to this point. And we encourage her to come back home, and promised that when she comes back home, she's going to meet a friendly environment, politically, technologically, and otherwise, where she can put out her expertise. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Barrister Mbeseha. Indeed, an environment where she can thrive is very necessary and cannot be overemphasized. Well, thank you so much. Moving over to Dr. Lobati. Dr. Lobati, do you think, following Ngoran's passion in civil engineering and her goal to draw international intervention to ensure that in the coming years, the Ambazonian people will finally get a relief fund where these basic infrastructural needs are achievable? Do you think this is possible?
Yes, I believe that all our talents, not only this wonderful scholar, will have the opportunity to actualize their given. You know, every human being on planet Earth has gifts, abilities, skills that others don't have. We complement each other. So even in Ambazonia, I believe that every living and breathing Ambazonian has value, has talent, skills that they can contribute to the building of the nation and uplifting of each other so that we live a good life. Unfortunately, you have to hold people down to keep them under control for their own personal benefits. That's what has happened to us. La République du Cameroon, controlled by the French and their other collaborators around the world, have held us in abject poverty and suffering, to the point where people lost the vision that they are wonderful, who are endowed with talents and skills. You know, you don't have to go to school and have a PhD. They talk about the wonderful skills of our technicians in Bamenda. The boys in Bamenda can take a car, break it apart into smaller units, and then put it back together, and we'll be driving again on the road time. It's unbelievable. Even today, where we have a lot of computer science incorporated into like car technology, these boys are able to bring down everything and put it back together, and it will be road. Some people even, I saw a YouTube video presentation of talents that are being used in Ivory Coast to build tall buildings that were developed, they said, in Cameroon, particularly Bamenda. I was surprised to hear that. That's some skills that our boys in Bamenda developed in construction of story buildings are being used in Ivory Coast to construct similar buildings. The boys are talented. Our people are intelligent. They are smart. And so we are grateful for people like this scholar, Ngoran, Aristide Tahtinnyuy, who was able to have an opportunity in Japan to bring out what is in her. Unfortunately, many of our children have not had the opportunity to bring out the skills and talents and abilities that are in them, or the disadvantages we've had being held back by La République du Cameroon. But I believe that not too long from now, they will all have the opportunity to flourish. And as Ambazonia is actualized, we'll make sure that everybody has the chance to be who they truly are in bringing out their skills and developing the country. Yes, we will use us when we actualize our independence.
The goal is to to upscale the nation and ensure that these skills are necessarily built for further groundbreaking discoveries. Well, we'll be moving over to Commander Elvis, still in the studio. Commander Elvis, thank you for joining us tonight. There are technicalities when it comes to matters of international intervention. The Ambazonian struggle has been ongoing for 9 good years now, and it seems the world has been silent. Yes. Do you think our enemies are practically projecting this war forgotten or not disastrous? Commander Elvis, consider the death rate, the number of displaced persons. Let me get your perspectives to this.
Are you sure he's connected?
Commander Elvis, can we get your sound, please?
I'm not sure he's connected.
Elvis, can we get your sound, please? Before we get a proper direction to him, can we kindly get Barrister Mbeseha again? Barrister Mbeseha, there's this question we are having here for you. Let me get your thought on this same question. Does it seem the international community are silent before we get back to Commander Elvis?
Well, it's the international community as we speak. It's a complex thing. They might be silent, but they are not blind. Their eyes are open, they see what is going on, but they are not blind. Speaking as of the international community, their silence may mean something, but they will speak sooner or later because they are not blind. And there are all indications outside there that they are not blind. All these things that we do on social media, that we post on Ambazonian Genocide Library, they don't go unnoticed. They are very, very well noticed somewhere. The missions you see going to Yaoundé, diplomats going to Yaoundé, they are there in Yaoundé. They come to Bamenda, they go to Buya. They are not blind. They see those things. When you see people with international standing cry out, they may not even be our friends. When you see, for example, the Archbishop of Bamenda shouting loud about the road to womb. Yes, people are listening. People are listening beyond our borders. They are listening beyond the borders of Cameroon. They are listening beyond the borders of Africa. So the international community is not silent, maybe, but again, they are not blind. We can only hope that as we move down the road, they will transform their silence into open speeches, into open action. They may not say anything, being silent, but they can act, and I'm sure they will act. Over to you.
Mbeseha, I don't know if you can get Commander Elvis to speak on that also. Commander Elvis, the floor is yours.
I think there are technical problems.
All right, we seem to be having a technical issue today with Commander Elvis. All right, we'll be moving on to the next report we have here. The Ambazonian Defense Forces confiscate La République du Cameroon's established identity cards. Well, an earlier report alleged that the Ambazonian State Army carried out the confiscation of La République du Cameroon's already established ID cards. However, Commander Elvis, in a news briefing, has cleared this assertion, indicating that the mastermind behind this action are the Ambazonian Defense Forces. This was in an attempt to prove their authority by also trying to rob Ambazonians on it. However, in an audio statement, Commander Elvis categorically highlighted that the Ambazonian State Army issued no order to confiscate ID cards. As opposed to the Ambazonian Defense Army, the Ambazonian State Army are more focused on a unified plan, and if such order is given, they would be more set on broader strategies to either ambush the operational police office rather than just cards confiscation. Well, we have been an audio discussion of Commander Elvis with a field marshal. Let's listen to that.
Yeah, thank you, Praga, for that feedback. Again, as commanders and leaders for this house, and I therefore understand, say, sometimes if you get a good strategy, but if you get a good strategy where you don't get a good implementation mechanism, that strategy be as good as nothing. Okay, so because some strategy fine, it don't mean say you must just put them out there. You must find a way for implement them. And we for this house, we didn't have to implement. We know didn't have to just come cause havoc. Yes, ID card strategy, just like painting of taxes, a very good strategy. Okay. But we should only implement such a strategy when the territory be fully under our control. Because when you tax people them means that you to represent that people them. Okay, because you know if you do to represent people them. For example, you collect tax of people them from Mezam, then somebody we don't collect tax for he come out from Mezam, he come out even just for your LGA, then go for some other LGA, they don't recognize which we don't pay for you. That means say you don't thief that person because you do them not on your behalf, not be on behalf of the nation. Because when something be on behalf of a nation, a strategy where you don't be accepted nationwide, then the strategy, if it be implemented, just like this ID card, you know, if it sees people that ID card for one village, and then the people that they work at patrol for some other town without ID card, that means say the people that they do for that village where it sees the ID card, they go come out, go for town where ID card be allowed for day. And if you never implement that strategy too for town, means say you just be say you do even hamburg na your own people. And for now, of course, we need identification. Where people that run go for Nigeria, so one day they run go for other country then. When they reach for that place, they need to identify themselves. You know, even some people the way they come out need to come out from one town to the other. Man come for your area. If man come for your area, we don't get identification card. We never identify what you go do as commander. Maybe sometimes you go even end up killing because you know if you be able to know where to be named, whether the name will tell you it be correct. So all those things at this particular juncture, not a strategy way, it is hell away. Okay, when we don't be able to control our territory, that time we sees all our public ID card them burn them. If we make sure to make all the ID card them, they be destroyed. Then we produce our own ID card them. If we paint one taxi them, that kind of blue and white. All that kind of time we do that thing, but now it's not the right time for such a strategy. It will backfire for we, because we people that will be against we, and they will start to point we out for the enemy, so that may will be killed. So again, ASA them, this one is stand down order, so make no man we in an ASA, they cannot touch anybody, the ID card, say they confiscate them. You know, will give we any benefit for as far as this revolution be. And if anything, we need for the try for win the people that trust, for win the people that support, made it do we. Never for the make things we, the people will instead turn against we and our policy them. So I want to thank you all, because as the thing don't happen, we'll try to make sure say, maybe we talk to those fighters away, they never be educated enough to understand how this policy or this strategy go backfire and make them understand and stop that practice. And any man with don't take an ID card, may they return the ID card. The people them never be the enemy. If they want to stop ID card, again, it be very simple. All fighters, they know which side they produce those ID cards, and police station them, may they go burn them down. That one you burn down the police station, you burn down outside they produce the ID card, you go don't effectively stop that ID card from being produced. And that one are the best solution. So thank you all again for our service and for our sacrifice for our great nation.
Yeah, good morning, us. Good morning, us. Now the only bro. I will salute all man for us. I will salute Apa, salute everyone for inside ASA. Yeah, I be want ask some about the year it be say that they take ID card them, they take ID card them for people. Now AS now they talk inside AS is made them take them on a how me I know. Me know me man not do something where it go worry because my pikin they don't hear the thing and they tell me the thing. I say me I ask them for no. Me then direct me if I man no go do something where no fine. Because when I hear something where it did that one more awesome. The 1 month say you direct me how will they do? Man not do thing where it go bring problem down now.
Good morning, House. All protocol duly respected. Major Joint Honorable, good morning. Yeah, make I respond for your message. Ambazonian State Army in order to collect people their ID cards. We know that they give any order as such. And the reason they say, number one, right now, we not fit collect people their ID card for some place, leave some other one them. If we be able to collect people the ID card, then we need to do so collectively throughout Ambazonia. At this point, we not fit do so. If we want to collect ID card, the best thing for we to do now for go attack the prison, the police where they produce the ID card, burn the prison down, they will shut down the ID card production. Now before begin they take the ID card or they attack our own people where they be innocent. ID card nothing way if you come out from Mezam, you want to go from Bui, you need them. You know, if we to collect now people the ID card for Ngokutunja for day, what you think the people they go do? No man not even go for Mezam again. If Mezam not collect the ID card, what you go do? You know, your people they go run from for day finish, go sit down for Mezam. Because now for day way they go feed they do their small business to get their money. So it will be very counterproductive for we to apply such a strategy at this time. Now why that we will not endorse them. Now policy when ADF don't do them, now capo for Bui. They actually don't do them, and in fact, all other fighters will be against that. So, not be something with the AS them endorse them. So I bet make Muna not do such a thing. It will backfire for we be the same like the one way ADF done from Meza. Same way they paint taxi them blue and white. They don't key ADF from Meza and finish, and because of that stupid policy. And I believe say this one will only backfire with them. So make Muna not copy this kind of bad policy. Thank you all.
Right there, the audio you just listened to. Commander Elvis had to outline reasons why the Ambazonian State Army should not indulge in such actions, balancing the need to not just come up with good strategies but also to implement them. This is a situation that has put straight the need for Ambazonians to remain focused and united as La République du Cameroon's elections draws close. This is also a reminder that the La République du Cameroon's election is not even a concern to the southern Cameroons, and Ambazonians are expected to boycott it. However, let's get from Commander Elvis. I believe the technical issue has been sorted out. Commander Elvis, thank you for putting the record straight on this report. While we all know elections are supposed to be the cornerstone of democracy, allowing citizens to choose their leaders and shape the direction of their country. However, when elections are rigged, as always in La République du Cameroon, then it undermines the very fabric of democracy. What's the point of holding elections if the outcomes is predetermined and the same people remain in power?
Oh, thank you very much, Tabitha. I don't know, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. The floor is yours, sir.
Okay, I want to start by actually extending my regards to our distinguished, statesman in the panel. I'm sorry, due to technical reasons, I wasn't able to join on time, so I didn't actually follow the first section of your program. But I just heard your question, and I'm very happy to respond to it. And I just heard the report that you put in that had earlier sent in, and I want to add another twist to it, talking about the elections. I actually, after analyzing some more details, I do see that these ID card collection that we just reported somewhat is tied with this current rigging of elections that's ongoing. And the reason I say so is because it is somewhat a strategy to confiscate people's identity cards, so that when those people go to produce new ones, they would force them rather to then register for elections, thus rigging the elections to be in favor of Paul Biya, people from Bui, for example, who never vote, who would never register to vote. Now, confiscating the ID means they would have to produce new ID cards. And if they go to produce those new ID cards, the administration would probably use that as a pretext now to show as proof that those people actually voted for those sham elections. So again, that's another way I looked at it. Back to your question, there's just no reason. We in Ambazonia, that is something that is not allowed in our territory. We understand that elections should be held in any democratic country under giving rules and regulations. But our country is not like Republic of Cameroon, and they cannot come into our territory and try to conduct any elections whatsoever. Right now, we are actually in a state of making sure that we reinstitute our institutions back in place. And we are not at the level where we would make our own elections now. So we have sent clear warnings already to our civilian population, those that are engaging in all these political activities in our territory. They have been seriously warned because they would have serious consequences to face. The Ambazonian State Army is ready to execute any orders that come from the national level. And if we see any traitors that are going around trying to push these La Republique agenda in our territory, they know the consequences. So again, we just want to thank all those Ambazonian citizens that are staying clear of these political activities and just continue to advise them to remain vigilant, see something, say something. If anybody goes against the rules and regulations of our state army, they'll be reported and they'll be held accordingly for their crimes. So thank you, Tabitha, for that question, and I would hand the microphone back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Commander Elvis, for joining us. Well, it's been a system where powers has been concentrated in the hands of a single person for years. It's indeed a season where the Ambazonian civilians need to be vigilant, as you just stated. But then, what are the security plans and advice you have for the Ambazonian people, the civilians basically at the home front?
Oh, thank you again for that great question. This is a time where we call for maximum restraint, especially as we understand that La Republique will use every trick of the book to have our civilians registered in some areas. We have also gathered some intelligence that they are planning some sham political activities in some parts of our nation. For that, we have plans in place to make sure that any plan that's being planned is disrupted. Any activity that the La Republique has that will promote any of those activities will be disrupted. We are begging on our civilian population, again, to see something, say something. If they have any information on any plans that are being carried out or any individuals that are abating and helping the enemy to orchestrate these activities in our territory, we are pleading on them to report to the nearest Ambazonian State Army. We would hold those people accountable. We would also be instituting, maybe in some cases, a lockdown where in areas where we think that it is safe for the civilian population to remain indoors. We understand that during these times, La Republique generally would try to inflict as much pain on the civilian population as possible. So we would like to have our civilians abstain from such environments. We also have circumstances where our people have been poisoned. Now it's time where they bring their bread and sardines to lure our people so they can turn out in their numbers, maybe because of hunger. But this time around, we have educated our population to understand that there is no essence eating a loaf of bread when you will when you will be hungry for the rest of the year. So our people have to continue to get this political knowledge to understand that we are separate from La Republique of Cameroon, and that we do not condone with any of the activities in our territory, and that is why we are resisting any form of their colonial activities or any form of their colonial activities that are taking place in our territory. We would also make sure that our Ambazonian State Army are armed. We're thankful for the Ambazonian people that have been called and they have listened to the call of our president that are up to, to draft. The drafts are ongoing. These funds will be very helpful in making sure that we stabilize areas that are weak. We'll be able to provide resources for our Ambazonian State Army to be equipped and ready for the task at hand. It is a daunting task. It is one that requires a lot of materials, and we are thankful for the Ambazonia people that are up to task helping in every draft possible to provide their resources so that we can provide the needed resources to our Ambazonian State Army to defend and protect our land and our people. So for that reason, we would be monitoring the situation very closely. Any information that we get, we would bring it to the Ambazonian people, and for any attempt by the enemy to invade our territory without any proper reason, we would call on our ASA to act accordingly, be it by force or whatever means. We would use that means to deter the enemy as they infiltrate our land. Like right now, we are combating the ID card issue that General Capo from Bui has instigated. This is, again, like I mentioned before, this is something that has to do with La République colonial plan to institute their elections in Bui County. And I'm glad that all the Ambazonian State Army in Bui, they are against this action. And I want to use this opportunity to send a clear message to General Capo of Bui County. This is somebody I know. I have always thought that he was better than the other ADF fighters. And if he has stayed this long, is because he actually never really went the way the other diehard ADF had always done. But I want to tell him that this time around, he is mistaken, because what the strategy that he is following right now, seizing people's ID cards, is the wrong strategy for all the good reasons that I already mentioned before. So I advise him as a brother to desist and to return all those ID cards that he has seized from people. And any ADF fighter anywhere in Ambazonia, be it ADF or not, planning to take people's ID cards, that should be a warning to that particular individual to desist from such thoughts and actions. Those are counter-revolutionary, and we would not allow you to be able to go ahead and, hurt our people. We are there to defend and protect our people and not to hurt them. And anything that brings harm to our people, you're doing it against the Ambazonian state. And we as a state, we as Ambazonian people, would not allow that to happen. So again, return all those ID cards that you have seized back to their proper owners. We are not fighting against ID cards here. When the time comes, we, Ambazonia, will create our own ID card. I will gladly share it to our civilians and our civilian population. As a matter of fact, they would gladly hand over those La République ID cards that were given to them and take the Ambazonia ID cards with pride. For now, we do not have any alternatives, and we would rather not take people's ID cards at this moment. That is waging another war against our civilian population. That is not needed. We don't want to, and we would not encourage that whatsoever the case. So again, I will end there, Tabitha, and thank you again for those great questions.
Thank you once again for that elaborated rhetoric. I believe the Ambazonian people are already taking note. Commander Elvis, just to take you back to the first question we have here. The Ambazonian struggle has been ongoing for well over 9 years now, and it seems the world has been silent. Do you think our enemies are practically projecting this war forgotten or not disastrous at all? Consider the death rate, the number of displaced persons. Do you think the international community are even silent, or our enemies are maligning and keeping this war so calm and not projecting it to the right sources?
Again, thank you for that question, Tabitha. As you know, we do not expect our enemies to be out there, selling the idea of a war to the international community. It is our responsibility to be able to inform the international community, our friends and our allies, of what is happening to our people. Thank God we have the internet, we have the computers, we have the phones, and we're able to transmit that information today faster and better than before. Back in the years when our people were being killed and there was no way where to even send that information out of country. But now we're able to get even second and minute by minute updates on what is actually happening on the ground. So in this case, our responsibility for that, I want to thank ABC Amba TV for your continuous coverage, making sure that we educate the international community and making sure that we also inform our civilians and our citizens of what is actually happening. I want to also thank our great diplomatic team. We have teams of great diplomats that are able to, visit the White House, for example, or the United Nations, and any other high office that needs to understand our case. We saw just probably this year how our barristers were very successful in mitigating our case and taking our case to sending letters to the United Nations and actually getting some feedback. So in greater extent, we are actually doing something. We don't expect our enemies to do that for us. On the contrary, our enemies would try to downgrade any activities that we do that have effects on them. Giving credit to the enemy too, though, we have been able to, our level of resistance now has died down somewhat from what it initially was. I mean, some people were hoping that this struggle would probably be over in the space of 6 years or 6 months rather, but extended to 6 and now 9 years. So it's actually weighing on people. It wasn't something that we all Ambazonians planned for it to be this long, but understanding the concept of wars and how long wars drag on, people have to be resilient. So some people have to fall back. We've lost a lot of great state men and women. We've lost a lot of forces. So we also have to fall back and look at our strategy and see what strategy we take that is going to affect and keep us long term. So to that regard, sometimes we have to, roll back our level of activities, recalibrate ourselves, re-strategize, and then, move forward. So we are thankful for every effort and for every one initiative that is being taken to make sure that our cause is heard by the international community, and to also make sure that our Amazonian State Army have what it takes to continue to defend and protect our land. Because if they were crushed, we would not even be able to speak up. We're speaking up is because they are still able to stand and resist. And we said we'll resist until the last man standing. That is why the Ambazonian State Army has their own principle, which is when you kill one of them, they recruit 2 more. So we continue to grow and resist until the last man standing. So thank you again, Tabitha, for that question, and over to you.
Thank you so much for your perspectives and thoughts to this, and most amazingly, your reactions to this. Well, moving over to Barrister Fru. Barrister Fru, still on the issue of power concentrated in the hand of a single authority. Look at the case of Paul Biya, a 92-year-old, still in the circle of 42 years. What do you have to say about this?
Well, thank you, Tabitha, for that question. Paul Biya, every nation deserves the leader that they have. If Paul Biya has lasted this long, it is because La Republic of Cameroon citizens who are with him, who have nurtured him for more than 43 years, they like him. What can I say? But one thing is clear. Our people had vomited La Republic of Cameroon just after they invaded our territory in 1961. Our people have resisted since 1961. It's just that the resistance was not this high like we have it now with our army and the Amazonian State Army, the war going on. They made the greatest mistake of their life to declare war on us, and they thought they were going to subdue us in the next 2 weeks. But this is the 8-9 year coming. We are still standing strong, and thanks to people like Commander Elvis and his other commanders who are holding our fighters on the ground and making sure that everybody is playing his role, so that we will continue to resist. Pobia's stay in power it does not concern us, Ambazonia. But I want to predict that this year is going to be very, very, very bad for them and good for us. Good for us in the sense that we will love to see them kill themselves. We will love to see them have another conflict like the one they inflicted on us. And if they do, we will take advantage of it and free ourselves. I'm not making any predictions. I am just saying that is what is going to happen, because we political observers are seeing the handwriting on the ground. Having said that, I want to say something about elections in Ambazonia by La Republic of Cameroon. Last week, the CPDM held a meeting in the Congress Hall right inside Bamenda. And how did they do it? They were coming in one by each with their uniforms in their bags. When they got in, everybody got in, they closed the doors, and everybody dressed in CPDM uniform. And after that, they went out the same way they came in. Like as this that we have. You see something, if you see something, say something. Our people in Bamenda saw what is happening, and Commander Elvis, I am bringing it to your doorsteps to say that Bamenda is going to be a nut to crack, because there are a lot of infiltrators, a lot of CPDM people who are blacklegs inside Bamenda town, mostly from Quen and other small pocket villages around, who are actively electioneering in Bamenda town. We will have to deploy a lot of our forces to control what is going to happen in Bamenda town, because it is announcing very, very, very difficult and very, very mind-boggling for some of us. The fact that CPDM was able to move right into the CPDM hall in Bamenda and hold that meeting successfully and left successfully leaves much to be desired. They are there, they are on the ground, they are mobilizing secretly from house to house inside Bamenda town. See something, say something. Commander Elvis, take special note. And I want to also say that this identity card thing, Commander Elvis has addressed it very well. And I cannot say anything because it is in the hands of our security forces, the ASA. Thank you very much, Tabitha.
Thank you so much, Barrister Fru. Thank you for that powerful reaction. Well, I think I would love Dr. Lobati to say something about this issue of ID card. Probably these outcomes are already determined. I mean, they already know who takes over power. Why illegally issuing foreign nationals' identification cards to secure votes?
Very interesting. Thank you very much, Tabitha, for the question. We have had very excellent reports and explanation of the issue regarding the card. I personally believe that it's just one of those psychological tactics that Cameroon is using to trouble our people. Remember that you had to call Tahtinnyuy boys on the ground. That means that are not truly Ambazonians, that have been compromised Ambazonians working with the Republic of Cameroon around putting themselves out as Ambazonian fighters who are not. That is a tactic that the French used in Indochina, in Vietnam, and all across Africa, that they are doing with us. And so these are the people they are using psychological means to torment our people and trouble them. And so I believe that they are the ones who are going around saying that they are seizing cards. Like Commander Willie said, one of the to get people to come and indirectly register and they put their names down as having voted. Another one is to take because they don't have money. So when you go to register for those cards, money from you. But besides that, those cards don't really have any value because people had registered for cards long ago and waited for years and never got them. Now close to elections, pretending that they're expediting release of those cards. So they use it any way that they want to. But we don't want to torment our people. Our people have suffered so much. So I don't believe that genuine Ambazonian children and fighters seizing cards from people because you just put them again at risk for La Republic comment and claim that they don't have cards and torture them, or get them to go pay some more money to La Republique du Cameroon. Regarding their elections, those elections are faked by the French. The French do that all across Francophone Africa. They pretend that election is maneuver the numbers and put whoever they want. What I personally believe, this is my personal opinion, Biya was born on February 13 of 1933. So basically he is 92 years old now and will soon be 93 years old next year. The person who founded the Fifth French Republic, Charles de Gaulle, was 1890 and he died in 1970. So he died at the age of 80 years old. So we know that Biya is an old man who is going to die. What is happening is trying to use him to hold the position of president by faking that they claim he has won in order to bring in a French to the seat after they claim that he has won to continue what the French have been doing. Did the same when they outmaneuvered Francophones and put in Ahijo. Then they outmaneuvered Ahijo and put in Biya. They're just trying to play with the people and fake an election. We claim that Biya won it and everybody in there. But even then, they will not succeed. But that is the trick that they are doing. That's my personal opinion about it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lobati. Thank you for that expounded rhetoric about this whole situation. I want to believe that Barrister Mbeseha has something to add concerning this whole situation. Let me hear from you, Barrister Mbeseha.
Well, I think my co-panelists have said almost all. But let me just add a bit of this. See, I see the issue of cards differently. They are election related, but they are not going to do it the way we think. They are taking cards from a particular place. People in a particular spot, call it in Cambe, call it a road in Bui, or even Kwen, or anywhere. People register to vote in those areas. They have polling stations. And so what are they trying to do, I think? They want to get those cards, take the cards, go feed the ballot boxes on the pretext that these guys have voted. That's just all, because it is election related. And so that's what they will do. The results of the elections will be known well in advance. The idea that was suggested that they could go and make an identity card is not possible. Because even when they claim that they could make an identity card within 48 hours, which is all a lie, but the centers for even making them, even there, are all the way in Douala. Where do you expect somebody from Cambe, from Womb, from Akwaya, to go stay in Douala for 48 hours to make an identity card? It's all fraud. But again, if these people, the ADF people, whom we know are working for Yaoundé, they are working for La Republique du Cameroon. We all know them. If they had intended to help, if they were ever election imagination in their heads, they would not be doing what they do. Because the problem of elections in Cameroon is not with the voters. The problem is with the organizers, LECAM, the ministry, and so on and so forth. And again, we should be reminded that there has never been any elections in Cameroon since 1960, when they got independence. Never. The other time they attempted to have an election was in 1992, when Ifrundi defeated them. And now they admit, we see it, Mr. Ambazonian, probably walking down the streets and telling people how they rigged the elections. In a civilized country, Ambazonian should be in jail. But that was a crime. That crime is still a crime today. But they did that. The results are known well in advance. So we don't care whether it is Paul Biya dying on the throne or Paul Biya being defeated. It has no meaning to us. Because what Abel Zongang, for example, supports Kamto. Who tells Abel Zongang that even if Kamto wins, they will not do exactly what they did to Nifundi? They will do the same thing. And so our brothers and sisters who are in Bamenda again holding meetings in the Congress Hall or in Boya or anywhere else, they are not doing it for the interest of Ambazonians. They are doing it because they hope that if Paul Biya wins or whoever gets to the power, they will appoint them something. If they don't appoint you, they appoint your brother a chief of service, a chief of bureau, which office goes with a lot of fraud, which office goes with bribery. So that should not be our concern. We'll get out of it. Elections have not meant anything to us. I had the time to say this during the week. If elections were important, what are the elected people from Akwaya, from whom, and other parts of Ambazonia, whom in particular and Akwaya, where are the elected officials there? Why are they talking about the roads? Why has the road issue in whom, particularly in Akwaya, been mortgaged to religious people? The moderator, retired moderator, or the archbishop? Where are the senators from those areas who are supposed to have been voted? Where are the MPs? They are not there. And so it is a ploy to deceive us. It's a fraud. And again, back to the people who seize identity cards. Identity cards, which we don't want for now, we don't have ours. They are the lifeline for everybody. For a woman going to the market, they will hold you on the road to extort money from you for not having an identity card. You cannot go to take your money from the cooperative if you have any money there because you have no identity card. So it is a crime intended to punish our people. What have these people done? They are assessing the identity cards. What have identity cards got to do with the liberation struggle? Absolutely nothing. It is an act of thievery. It is an act of a criminal act for which those people should be held accountable. And so I think my opinion is that those ADF people doing that thing, or whoever is doing it, is a criminal. Should be punished. Elvis articulated the thing so well. ASAs know what to do. And if I were there, if I were one of them, I saw you seeing people's identity cards, I will bring you down. That's my personal opinion. Because it's crime. You are punishing the poor woman. I saw those pictures of those ladies walking up and down after surrendering their identity cards. For what? For what, you may ask? And then, of course, they are doing this. From the story, there's a control. The next control is the military. Why are they not coming down to control this thing? They are cooperating with the criminals. And so, that said, our people should be steady. During a struggle as ours, there's always going to be ups and downs. We will suffer, but we'll get out of it. Over to you.
Very much indeed, Barrister Mbeseha. These are pressing questions we need to ask. Well, this is where we'll be coming to the end of tonight's Flash News. I want to really celebrate you all for giving your analytical perspectives and thoughts shared tonight. Barrister Fru, Barrister Mbeseha, Commander Elvis, Dr. Lobati, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we'll be handing it over to our news director, Mr. Tarh at Studio 1. Kindly join in. Thank you.
You're welcome back, and thank you for staying with us this evening, this Saturday evening. We're going to get straight away into an interesting segment of our conversation. And I don't think I would like to repeat what Tabitha, I think she did so well, asking all the necessary questions and having the stakeholders, or I would call the authorities like Commander Elvis and others, to address the pressing concerns. While I wait for them to leave Studio 1 and to connect with us here, or leave Studio 2 and connect with us here in Studio 1, I want us to have a little bit of review on some issues that have been happening. And I already have Dr. Lobati is here with us in the studio. I'm looking forward to have Barrister Fru. Barrister Mbeseha is also connected, and Barrister Fru is connected. I want to be sure that Commander Elvis is connected. Commander Elvis, I'm yet to be able to see your sound. I know that you'll be connecting with us, but via a video call. So once you are able to connect, we want to have you and get to answer this question that the Ambazonian people want to have us all answer. What has been happening in 2025? This is a very critical year. A lot of things are changing in the world drastically and rapidly. And the United States of America, ever since the re-election of Donald Trump, is fronting these global changes on almost everything. Immigration happens to be on the spotlight. You have the U.S. foreign policy and relationships. It's changing. Some are wondering, is it just the desire for the Trump administration to give results or to fulfill the promises made during their campaign? We cannot deny that these changes are affecting every nation in the world, either in economy. When the US dollar goes down, it affects local currencies in many different countries, and even adds to the reason why a group of countries wanted to team up to fight the US dollar by creating the BRICS, why we've not had any advancement of that initiative. Ambazonia is at a critical war. Sometime last year, a couple of times, the colonial administration in Yaoundé has claimed victory by attesting to the world that normalcy is returning. How truthful is that? We've seen the Ambazonian army reviving every day, re-emerging even in regions within the state of Ambazonia that nobody thought there was a fighter. We've seen it from Oketunja to Bui, from Fako to Manyu. And even as we speak, Ndonga Mantu is also doing a very great. So much is happening. Individuals doing that on their own. Who is behind the force? What is the force behind these real actions that are taking place at the home front? We also would like to look at the changing U.S. policies and administration. Laws are changing, and the stock market is dropping and rising at very high proportions. How is Ambazonia, or how has Ambazonia for the past 3 months been able to strategically sustain themselves at this critical time? This is how I want the discussion to move during this second phase of our conversation. But before then, it's important that we look at, we remember or remind ourselves of something that has to do with the U.S. aid. We spoke about it last week elaborately, and we had an excerpt of Ambassador Arikana Chihumbori Kwor, and lots of people have appreciated what she said. But it so happens that Barrister Mbeseha, who is a bright mind in Ambazonia, does not necessarily agree with her strategic calculation on this issue. We're going to touch on that slightly this evening. But to take a quick break so that I can ensure that our panelists or commentators are fully connected, I want to leave you with that video, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Stay tuned.
There is need for readjustments. There is need for realignment. We need to understand the real reason why USAID is in Africa. And not just USAID, but other NGOs. You look at DFID, which is the British equivalent, and many other smaller ones. Their sole purpose was to act as if they're coming to rescue Africa. They're coming to fill in the gaps in government services, gaps in education, gaps in healthcare, gaps in humanitarian services. They're coming in the guise of addressing issues to do with human rights, issues to do with environmental protection and social justice. They are coming in claiming that they're introducing grassroots initiatives that are going to help the people. And so they use that as a way to go into the most remote parts of Africa. They're talking about government advocacy. When you look at it on paper, it all looks really good. But they're actually wolf in sheep's clothing. They are using that open access sounding humanitarian to constantly destabilize governments. I can tell you right now, the majority of African leaders, and not just African leaders, but leaders in the developing world, are celebrating the exit of USAID. I was listening to a program, I believe it was CNN, and I was jumping up and down. It was a government official from Hungary. He was echoing the same sentiments. He said they are happy USAID is leaving Hungary because they are always supporting opposition. Their form of government advocacy is supporting whoever can keep the government in a turmoil. Major meddling agenda. Why do we need them? Africa has been the provider. If you look at Europe, Europe cannot survive without Africa. One situation that people don't realize, post-World War, when the US came up with the Marshall Plan, what they don't tell you is that the contribution through exploitation of African minerals was actually the biggest funder of the European Recovery Plan, ERP, aka the Marshall Plan. US contributed $13 billion, which is now present day $175 billion, which, by the way, the American taxpayer must be paid back. Nobody's asking for that money back. But what they don't tell you is that Africa, through exploitation of its resources by the Europeans, was actually a much, much bigger contribution to the European recovery post-World War II. Nobody talks about that. Why does such a continent that did so much to help Europe recover continue to be so poor? Africa does not need the aid. What we need is for those who are exploiting Africa to stop. Africa has everything it needs. If Africa could have contributed as much as it did to the recovery of Europe post-World War II, why wasn't Africa equally developed? I think this is a wake-up call for the African leaders. To the same extent that President Trump is saying USA first, African leaders must also say Africa first. This is a wake-up call to the African leaders to take inventory of what is really happening in their countries. Do they really need the peanuts that are coming in as aid? What is really going out? The French companies that were mining the uranium were paying the government 80 cents a kilo for the uranium, and then turning around and selling the uranium to the rest of the world at 200 euros a kilo. So that one move from the Nigerian government to say we are now going to take ownership of our own uranium, they went from realizing about $1 billion in uranium resources to over 300 billion a year. Do you realize what I'm talking about? No amount of NGO could bring that kind of money. And this is only one mineral. Now imagine the country taking inventory of all their minerals and benefiting from their natural resources like the rest of the countries in the Western world. That is what African leaders need to look at. My position is Africans must take a position and protect their turf. The question is, does Africa have an African position when they come to the negotiating table with the world? The answer right now is no. Africa must unite. Africa must speak with one voice, and Africa must go to the world stage with one voice, one agenda, one plan that the world will have to respond. So no. These institutions were not created to benefit the developing world. To the contrary, they were built to steal from the developing world. Their success is based on the failures of the developing nations where they have been stealing from. So no. We must celebrate what President Trump is doing by exiting the United Nations, by exiting the World Health Organization. We need the U.S. to exit the World Trade Organization because they are doing nothing on the African end. They are giving a blind eye to blatant exploitations, unequal, uneven trade policies that are hurting Africa.
Welcome, gentlemen, to this very important evening. I want to thank you all for coming again. Sure, my camera was messing up there. I just got it fixed. Okay, Dr. Fred, I think I should begin with you because you were not here last weekend, and we want to just make some brief commentaries. The good news is last week, Barrister Fru and Barrister Mbeseha make very good commentaries, and I agree with both of them the way they are seeing it. There's something Barrister Mbeseha said that I really agree with, that I also think is a mistake. It's some kind of politics because Barrister Mbeseha has got a lot of experience when it comes to foreign policy. He has been a field worker, so he has some authority to see some things at a level that others are not seeing. Barrister Mbeseha is a politician, but Arikana is more of an activist. So she will just hit it as it is hot. And it could be advantageous or disadvantageous too. But you are working directly in very high offices in America that understands how this USA and things are working in Africa. I heard you at the background make some commentaries about it. When you listen to Arikana, the way she speaks, Ambassador Arikana, how do you really think she is right for saying that the US aid in Africa was more destructive than it was of any constructive value? We've had reports that even some UN offices and funds were used to fund terrorist activities in the world. Arikana believes that it was a strategic attempt to dismantle governments in developing countries and to solidify imperialist control. I'd like to get your perspective on that before we move into what is very important. And you may want to link that to our situation in the Cameroon, so particularly in Ambazonia. Please talk to us, Dr. Fred.
Well, that's very interesting. You know, it's differences of opinion is good because it's like the proverbial elephant that everybody is describing from their own perspective. You know, somebody is holding the trunk and describing it and believe that the truth is only what I'm saying. Somebody's at the tail, somebody's on the ear, and somebody's on the trunk or leg or foot. So we may have differences of opinion, but when we put them all together, then we get a better picture of the elephant. I believe what that ambassador said. The thing is this. I don't know whether you guys believe this or not. You've heard about conspiracy theories. There is truly a conspiracy going on in international politics. And you have some individuals that have aligned themselves together and conspired to amass all the wealth on earth to themselves and keep the rest of the world in abject poverty. I have my own personal opinion about who these individuals are. I'm not going to mention it here. And most of these individuals are controlling the political systems in the Western world. When I say the Western world, it includes the United States and what America calls their allies, which includes the English-speaking nations like Canada, Australia, Britain, and others, as well as the European nations, France, Germany, and the others, the countries that are aligned with the Western nations. You can even call it NATO if you want to. These countries They have a secret pact where they want to make sure that all the resources and wealth of the earth is under their total control. And the other nations would be subservient and listening to them, and they direct them. Unfortunately for them, the Asian nations slipped through their fingers. What I mean is what they call the Asian tigers, which includes even China and all the countries that are emerging very wealthy, with the Koreas and the others over there. They slipped through their fingers, and the unfortunate collateral damage has been the African continent, where they have made sure that if other countries slip through their fingers, Africa does not slip through their fingers. So they all have this thing they call aid. The French give it their own name, aid de développement or coopération. The Germans have their own name. The US has their own. The British have their own. What is happening is that they have carried away like over 100% of our resources, and then they take less than 1% of our resources and bring it back to us, calling it aid, and using what they call aid to tie our hands again so that they continue controlling us. So what Trump has done here is like a volcanic activity that has exposed a lot of things. So in the simple term, when we see the US coming as aid, which Kennedy introduced as US aid, we think that is something good, all right? But this is what they were telling our people. They were telling our people that in order to get this aid, you must allow homosexuality in your own system of governance. You must allow free condoms for troops in the military, like you heard. That people were shocked that this aid was being used to provide condoms for troops in some country in South Africa, somewhere in South Africa, and so many other things. And then you must allow Bill Gates vaccines, which render some of our children infertile. All those things. So again, if I bring it all here, some people may scratch their heads and wonder, where did you come up with all those things? It is a conspiracy to keep us in abject poverty and control by predominantly Western powers. And the aid is just something that they dangle in front of us, pretentiously trying to help us, but it's just another rope to tie our hands and keep us in control. Yes, it even came out that even this US aid was being used to finance Boko Haram. Oh God, I've said another thing right here. That US aid was being used to finance Boko Haram. I said it. These are facts for those who care to search. And I'm not going to go further, but I agree with what that lady said.
That's amazing. I want the two barristers to come in on something important you just brought up. Barrister Mbeseha, Barrister Fru, you can do that interchangeably. Barrister Mbeseha, you have worked as a diplomat under the United Nations. You have worked in conflict regions in Africa. And I would say that you know exactly what is happening on the ground first hand. You are not just talking from the media. That is why I always enjoy talking with you on issues like this. Why do you think that Africa is always a victim of such calculations of NATO, like as it is? Why? Because this knowledge, this is an educative program. This knowledge will help us as a people to properly position ourselves, like probably the way Burkina Faso is doing. I don't know how best they are doing it, so that we can move forward and be more solidified nations. Why is Africa always a ready victim of these evil calculations? Vice Mbeseha, please, I'll begin with you.
Thank you for having me. See, Africa is a victim of its own incompetence. You see, I like when we talk about, when the lady and others talk about Pan-Africanism. It's good to talk. That's a big word that everybody wants to hear. Oh, Pan-African. What does it mean? It means, for example, Nigeria working with Cameroon, Cameroon working with Chad, Cameroon working with South Africa, which is quite a good thing if they can. But for me, which is always my point. There can be no Pan-Africanism without Pan-nationalism. And let me explain this. If we are in Mboya today, and we are unable as a government in Mboya to construct a road to Ndian, to make it possible for somebody growing Irish potatoes in Kankambe to sell it to someone living in Limbe or Victoria, which is a terrible thing, a specialty there, then how do you expect to sell your rice to someone living in Chad or somebody growing rice in Chad to sell it to you in Victoria or in Mamfe? If we cannot do this, if we cannot build a clinic in Mboya where somebody will have headache, not even Mboya, and drive from Mamfe to treat himself there, is it because the white man has done it? No. The last segment we're dealing with a young lady who had done something very good in Japan with all that expertise. If we cannot control our own roads, why are we playing the victim game? I witnessed several occasions where the Africans went to the World Trade Organization, which that woman referred to. They sent their trade ministers, well-educated people from Harvard, from London universities. They went to that WTO meeting. They sat there. They were sleeping. They were sleeping. The white man somewhere, an American or some white man, give him a sleeping pill? Certainly not. Those people who sat there and they were presiding over those things were people who went to the same schools with them in London, in Paris, in Washington, D.C. They were sleeping. What did they lack? They had been paid transport to go there. They were sleeping in comfortable hotels where they refused to be responsible for themselves. And so you find someone saying, well, they should pull out of the United Nations. The United Nations is not the African problem. The Africans are their own problem. In that very United Nations, you have countries like Korea that were less developed than Cameroon. They have emerged and we're buying cars from them. We're buying cars from them. So the African has a problem that they refuse to solve. You talk about aid. Let me give you, I mentioned that this is a good example. When we were in the mission, when we were in the Côte d'Ivoire, the United Nations there, they have this thing they call World Food Program, which they bring to war zones. Okay, and they were bringing World Food Program to help people in distress in the Côte d'Ivoire. What were they bringing? They were bringing rice from Korea, from Asia. And I asked this question specifically. In the southern part of the Côte d'Ivoire, plantains, yams were getting rotten in the bush. Nobody was eating that thing. And I asked, is it that if they ship these yams, if they ship this plantain to someone in northern Côte d'Ivoire, they will die? Why must you bring rice from Korea? Why must you bring rice from Korea? If they needed to help those people because they were hungry, what prevented the very United Nations from buying rice, from buying cocoyams, from buying yams and plantains from the north, from the south, and taking it to the north for the people to eat? They didn't do it. Why? Because the government in place did not insist on that. And I investigated and found something. The Koreans were not just giving the rice for nothing. They were giving the rice to the United Nations Food Program. And they were writing it off as part of their contribution to the United Nations Organization because they pay as a country. Why are we not doing same? Is it France? Is it Britain, the ex-colonial master, telling us not to do this? Certainly not. The aid, USAID, might be something that we don't want, and a relative we don't want. But they don't force it on you. Why are we going begging from them? They don't bring it to you until you ask for it. They don't bring it to you until you ask for it. And so, even their lady who talks about Pan-Africanism, they are not talking about a single country in Africa. They are talking about different countries with different borders coming to work together as Africans. But do they have a policy? Have they ever conceived a policy on how to deal with their mineral resources as Africans? No. Why? In fact, you have vacancy in Cameroon. Nigeria and Cameroon are fighting over Bakassi. Why? Because there's gas there. Has Nigeria, which is trying to get that gas, or Cameroon, which is exporting it, do they have a common export policy for gas? Do they have a common exploration policy for gas? That they will say, where the company comes from Japan, from China, from America or not. This is the policy that will benefit us. They don't. They don't. Why? Because these governments are just incompetent. Did somebody decree that, look, from London, or somebody decree from Paris, that you, Nigeria, and Cameroon cannot cooperate in how your gas is exploited? No. The foreign authorities, colonies, colonial masters, they are armed robbers. I agree with that. But an armed robber, when he comes to attack you, to take your money, to steal from your house, he's not your sympathizer. That's what I call armed robbers. They will kill you to get your wallet. They will kill you to take your wife. They will kill you to get everything you get. And so until you're able to develop a resistance, that look, I'm not giving you my wallet, I start to struggle, then with the gendarme or police come and say, well, what is happening? And get that guy. But if you're prepared to leave your door unlocked, the armed robber will get in there, walk away freely, and then you call yourself, you become a victim. You don't even defend yourself. Why are we here now? This program, we're Ambazonians. We have been fighting a war for 7 years. Yes, if the French are doing what they are doing, it is because they have an interest. What prevents Yaoundé, whom we call brothers, from saying, let us sit down and do this? The money that they get from Sonora, the money that they get from Sonora, which is in Ambazonia, is not even put in their budget. It's stolen by Paul Biya as an individual, put in a foreign bank somewhere in Switzerland or in Paris. So if you had a bank in London, and you had your bank, your international bank, and somebody stole money to go and put it there, that will give you and get interest, you will drive the guy away? You will not. So let Africans take things around. Quitting the United Nations, international organization is not. If you leave the World Health Organization, Dr. Lobati knows that, we have our own doctors without infrastructure to treat you small malaria. I guess Dr. Lobati knows this. What they call the corrupt forest, which has medicinal plants right inside there. And in Cameroon, we have an institute of medicinal plants. They have never gone to that place to see what the white man harvests from the tree to make medicine. Rather, when they borrow money, they go and buy medicine from India, print labels and put that this thing was made in Cameroon. Is it the Indians who are able to do that? Over to you.
So you just agree with Arikana that it is a bad system in place that people are simply taking advantage of. And I think you have really answered that question well. But Mr. Fru, I kind of know what you're going to say, but you have to speak because there's something I really like you to talk about on this issue when it has to do with our strategic positioning in Africa so that we are not victims. You have been very critical on issues like this for the past years that we've been having this conversation. You have admired the juntas in West Africa that are changing the trajectory, and you can hear how much Niger will be making from uranium alone. Maybe you want to chip into this before we move forward.
Yes, Paddy, there are two things I have to say here. Anybody who considers Dr. Arika as an activist doesn't know what he's talking about. That is a diplomat, a former diplomat, a medical doctor, very well read, and the question that was posed by the Azaria journalist had to do with this foreign aid. I would not give her 100%. I would give her 80% correct.
Okay.
The only thing I differ with her is the type of confidence and the way she talked about African leaders. There are no African leaders except in the Sahel. There are no African leaders. the African Union is financed by the European Union and is delegated by the French.
Yeah.
I like to agree with my colleague that African leaders in a large number of them now are incompetent, and they are victims of their own incompetence. I like what President Trump has done. Get up USAID and let these African leaders sit up. Because they were using the aid to penetrate most of African countries, to siphon the natural resources of African countries, and in the course of siphoning, they pinch a little bit and give to the leaders, and they open accounts in Europe. Listen, look at Burkina Faso, the development of Burkina Faso as we speak. A young leader, a captain in the army, who has never earned a million or two as salary. Look at the way he's transforming his country with the natural resources on the ground. He dictates the market value of his resources, and he's able to do what he's doing. We are living witnesses of what is happening in Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
Take Cameroon, for example. USAID is going to cripple Cameroon. Yeah. The killing of USAID is going to cripple Cameroon because Cameroon was using USAID to siphon money. Yes. And they were giving aid, USAID aid to Cameroon to get money, to get the resources from Cameroon. Which resources? Stolen resources. I want to indicate to all of us that Nigeria is a member of the International Oil Organization. What do they call it again? That is along with Saudi Arabia.
OPEC.
What do they call it again? OPEC. OPEC. Nigeria is not in the category of some of these dictatorial regimes. They do steal money, yes, they do, but not the way the others are stealing money. The oil that Cameroon has, the resources that Cameroon has, the gas that Cameroon has is all Ambazonian oil and gas. And when you steal anybody's property, you tend to sell it cheap so that you can make fast money. That's what is happening. And Cameroon is not the only. Most African countries, the resources they find, they sell them very cheap to disenfranchise their citizens. And you are telling us that Dr. Arikada is just an activist? She has presented the case very well. My only problem is she has not given notice of the attitude of the present day African leaders. There will never be unity with this dictator sitting in the African continent. Look at the Sahel, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger. They are developing at a rate that nobody envisioned. And they are all young military, they are all young people, young military officers. These old heads like me here, they have stolen so much for the benefit of their children, their wives, and their friends, and the money is developing the Western world, the money is developing other parts of the world, but not their own country. And
to agree with you, to agree with you, they would rather just, because what they give to them is not even 0.1% of what Europe steals. So they rather just take that little bit and then keep everybody poor and so it is an evil agenda.
Second point. These African leaders are the most incompetent in the world. Their children are allowed to die of hunger and famine, and they bring those pictures and put them to the world on television screens to allow the West to exploit us with it, so that they can come, take what we have, take everything, and push a few grains of corn, a few grains of God knows what, because they claim our people have died of hunger. This USAID aid and whatever the British are sending out as aid, or the French, if it doesn't cease on the African continent, we will continue to be where we are. And the African Union should be disbanded so that a new organization that stands on its feet can be created. You cannot be taking money from the West and thinking that they will dance to your tune. They are giving you that money because they have an interest to protect. They build even the house, the hall that you sit and hold meetings, so-called African Union meetings, built by the European Union. The salaries are paid by the European Union, and you tell me
that's kind of scandalous, Barrister Fru, because I'm like, so African leaders cannot just even organize themselves, and that's why you see these criminals, which I call, they are just governors of imperialists like Biya, like the Tinubus. They just don't like to see a folk of leadership that wants to be independent. You saw Tinubu a few days in office, the both of you criticized him here last year a lot. You remember?
Look,
a few days in office, I was in Nigeria then. Tinubu started by wanting to fight these juntas. And Nigerians had to fight against him. He would have waged a war against Niger for taking their own nation.
Nigeria is governed by criminals. But the one good thing that Nigeria did was to attach itself to OPEC, such that the oil is sold in the world market at the world price. But most leaders in Nigeria carry money, cash, dollars in cash and travel with. Those are armed robbers. They don't have the interest of Nigeria at heart, but still, Nigeria is one of, I think, in my opinion, is the most developed African nation. Because they have the resources. Yes, and the biggest African economy. And the biggest African economy. Let me finish. No. Hold on. I'm talking about Black Africa. Nigeria, arguably, is the most developed Black African nation, and the most is the largest African economy. Why? Because their oil and gas has found an international market that there is no hanky-panky. That said, when the money gets back to Nigeria, those armed robbers who are in power, they swindle, put in their briefcases, enter the plane, and they disappear. Like Tinubu. Tinubu is a former drug dealer from Chicago. He knows the game better than anybody else. So I'm not surprised.
I want us to move forward.
And the African Union and Nigeria, a big Nigeria is and South Africa are members of the African Union, and they would allow the European Union to finance the African Union. What a paradox! Thank you, Paddy.
Yeah, I'd like us to move forward. Commander Elvis, I'm going to come to you, but you have to just give another opportunity. Let me talk with Dr. Lobati and the lawyers again. Because when we get to the last phase of this conversation that has to do with what the government has achieved, you have a lot to say there. You're going to speak more because we want to focus a little bit more on what the government has been able to do on the ground and how we are holding our ground game to ensure that we rightfully position ourselves for these first 100 days. Ambazonia is strategically doing what you call pitching at this point, especially to the U.S. government. The lawyers that are here understand this better. But I want us to go back to Dr. Fred Lobati. A lot of Ambazonians have been listening about you, Dr. Fred. Some just know you probably as a patron, as a generous person, and somebody who comes to probably comment on ABC. A lot of them don't really know who you are, and you're that kind of person, you don't even like that information. But you will forgive me after this because I'm going to do it. I've done my own research about you, and I want to explain something. Ambazonians know, because this question will be linked based on your competence and what you're doing currently in the United States of America and what you're doing in the world. So who is Dr. Fred Lobati? That's Frederick Tum Lobati, as recognized by a major media platform that talks mostly about people that governments use to do major things in America and in the world. You people decision, they describe you in this article as a visionary leader in global healthcare and humanitarian advocacy. These are your portfolios. You're an MD, you're an FACP, you're an MRCP. So these are all recognitions from the world's #1 country. So according to this article, they say Dr. Frederick Tum Lobati is an esteemed physician, educator, and humanitarian with over 35 years of transformative contributions to healthcare. Known for his exceptional expertise in infectious disease, hospital medicine, and public health strategy, Dr. Lobati has dedicated his career to improving lives with both locally and globally. A hospitalist in Quacks Healthcare since 2016. He also serves as a civil surgeon for the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. That's the USCIS. That a lot of people are trying to beg to get some green card. We have an Ambazonian serving in the core. So I want to read that again. He serves as a civil surgeon for the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service, where he ensures that immigrants are free from communicable diseases as part of their integration process. Dr. Lobati's career began in Cameroon, where he was awarded a scholarship to study medicine in Germany, earning his MD from a prestigious University of Cologne in 1988. He also completed a diploma in community health and tropical medicine at Heidelberg University in 1989, cementing his commitment to serving vulnerable populations. After practicing medicine in Cameroon, including treating patients with leprosy at the Bingo Baptist Hospital, Dr. Lobati transitioned to the United States to further his medical education. He completed his residency in internal medicine and a fellowship in infectious disease at the University of Missouri, Kansas City School of Medicine, obtaining a board certificate in both specialties. Over the years, Dr. Lobati has held a range of impactful roles, including serving as assistant professor of clinical medicine at the University of Missouri Healthcare and director of travel and immunization clinic, as a medical consultant for Missouri Department of Mental Health and the Missouri Department of Health. He played a key role in managing infectious diseases such as HIV/AIDS and tuberculosis. His tenure as a triac physician and the Marion VA Medical Center for the highlights his commitment to serving undeserved communities. Beyond his clinical responsibilities, Dr. Lobati has been an active contributor to healthcare education and policy. He is a fellow of the American College of Physicians, the Infectious Disease Society of America, and the Society of Hospital Medicine. Passionate about fostering inclusivity, he serves on Quacks Health Diversity Community and has been deeply involved with non-profit initiatives, including his role as director of Show Me Mercy, which provides medical support to individuals in need. Dr. Lobati is multilingual, fluent in English, French, and German, enabling him to connect with diverse populations across the globe. He contributes his success to his Christian faith, family support, and unyielding determination. His mission statement, to be a brother to everyone I meet, encapsulates his compassion approach to both medicine and life. Throughout his career, Dr. Lobati has received numerous accolades, including the Physician Recognition Award with commendation from the American Medical Association in 1999 to 2023. As a trusted advisor, and take note, as a trusted advisor and thought leader, he has shared his insight through public seeking engagements and academic contributions on topics such as HIV prevention and tropical medicine. Looking to the future, Dr. Lobati is focused on expanding his humanitarian outreach and leveraging his vast experience to help organizations advance their missions. His unwavering dedication to bridging healthcare gaps and uplifting undeserved communities positions him as a transformative leader ready to make an even greater impact on global health and social equity. Why am I excited? And I want Ambazonians to know this so that they understand we are on a panel, not just with a seasoned diplomat like Barrister Mbeseha and a no-nonsense lawyer like Barrister Fru, that's well known in Cameroon. But we have somebody that has a competence that at least challenges almost every healthcare minister that I know in the Cameroons. And he is not just talking innuendos. He's talking about experience, what he has done, and what he has a clear understanding. Now, Dr. Fred, I bring this to you. We are aware of the nuclear warfare, what some have termed now as the chemical war or medical war against the world that has to do with vaccines. How has the West, most especially, instrumentalized vaccination against Africa? And why must Ambazonia position themselves to probably avoid vaccines? I know you've spoken about this a lot. It's important because we have fighters at war front. You have diseases that are created in the laboratory. And that is another form of war with globalists that want to reduce world population. Please talk to us.
So that is a very, 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 very hot topic. And if you release the entire facts about it, some people will feel like maybe you're telling a lie or you're a conspiracy theorist, as I say. I call it conspiracy science because there's truly a conspiracy going on in the world. And if you don't investigate and find out about it, they will finish you off. So I know a lot about vaccines because, like you said, I was the director of vaccines in the university, so I know a lot about them. But this is the situation. We have heard when we were in Cameroon that some people came and gave vaccinations to students in St. Augustine's College, and that maybe those vaccines were going to do some harm to our girls. This is the situation. The world population is significantly increasing dramatically. And the increase in the world population is to the advantage of these same people that we are talking about that want to control all the resources of the earth. These Western nations, their population is not increasing in proportion as the population, particularly of central, the sub-Saharan African nations. So right now, India is the most populated nation on planet Earth. The population of the Earth at this moment is over 8 billion people. That occurred in 2022, and India overtook China, which most people don't know. China, we knew for a long time, was the most populated nation on Earth, about 1.5 billion. India just overtook them. And if you add Pakistan and Bangladesh to what was the original Indian territory controlled by the British, India alone, people that look like the Indians, are over 2 billion. The projection is that by the year 2100, the population of the sub-Saharan African, the people with flat nose like myself, will be 45% of the world population. And this frightens the Western nations so much. that they have designed plans to control that population growth. And one of them is to use vaccinations. For those who care to listen, Bill Gates is the big guy that talks about it. They said the best way to control population is to use vaccinations. And so what did they do? They went into some of these vaccinations and put some components of the hormone that helps women to carry on a pregnancy called SCG, human coronary gonadotropin, which when they give little children, they develop antibodies against that so that the girls grow up and become infertile. So now they come to you telling you that, oh, we want to help the little children and give them vaccinations, but the goal is to render the girls infertile so that the population in those countries will not grow. That is the reason why Bill Gates, you see him going to populated countries like Nigeria and pretending to befriend the countries that they are promoting health. The purpose is to introduce these vaccinations to reduce the population. The other thing is to also starve the nation. So they're bringing genetically modified seeds. I think we've talked about it in some of these programs, where they give you seed from the government. You plant it once and you cannot plant it again. You know, our mothers in the villages used to plant, whether it's granules or corn or yam or anything. They kept some seed and planted it again. But they want us to eat up all our naturally produced food. Then we get this seed given to us, which are genetically modified, so that we plant them once and we can no longer plant them again. And so you are now dependent on the benevolent people giving you seeds. And when they don't give you, the people starve. That's a way of now controlling the population through food. And not only that, I'm speaking here as an infectious disease doctor. They have the means of producing diseases. That means creating microorganisms that can cause disease that can target only a specific race. So what I mean is, just like you have the COVID, for example, you can have the flu, or they can literally manufacture diseases that will targetedly kill only black people. That's truly what's going on. And if you learn all of that, you will be so frightened that you may almost give up hope. But I believe in God. Now, like we were talking, I'll divert here a little bit. I want to give facts. We were talking about how the West is exploiting Africa. Let me just tell you, from 1990 to 2015, this is an article, you can Google it online, you will see it. Imperialist appropriation in the world economy drained from the global south through unequal exchange from 1990 to 2015. In summary, what they are saying, yearly, about $10 trillion of resources are carried away from the south, predominantly African countries, to the north. And since 1990, they have drained $242 trillion of wealth from the southern hemisphere, as they say it, to the northern hemisphere. And it's not just the resources that they're carrying away, they actually want to keep us in abject poverty, suffering, and dying. If you have been looking at some videos of Yaoundé recently, you know that if you live in refuse, dirty water, you will pick up cholera and other diseases and die from it. See the amount of refuse in Yaoundé. The plastics that are produced have blocked the streams so that when the rain falls, there's flooding all over the city. And then you find people literally walking knee-high in this refuse dirt through the neighborhoods, and some journalists even take pride in standing in there and giving a report of how bad the situation is, claiming that, well, somebody has been in power for 42 years, and I'm saying 45 years. These people take pleasure in seeing us in that state. And the more the political leaders keep us in that state, the Western powers believe that they're doing a great job. That's why Biya is there, because he has allowed the French, and when I say the French, I talk about their collaborators, and I mean these same people, their collaborators, as long as he is doing what they want, they keep him in power. So they not only carry away our resources, but they also promote him and his ministers to embezzle the little we have and keep them in their bank accounts in Switzerland and in Europe. So now we don't have the money in our country. So if you have a project, you want to build an infrastructure or start something, you go to bank to take a loan, you can't take any loan because all our money is abroad. That is the magnitude of the problem. And I can keep going on and on, but I'll just stop right there. And Thank you for trying to tell the people who I am. I try to hide it because I don't want to project myself out there too much.
Amazing. I think that will be the end of that discussion. I want us to move forward into something really important right now.
No, it's not the end.
You want?
It's not the end. Listen to me. Yes.
The both of you should
yes.
Please.
Yes. When we started this program, when we started this program, I told us that Ambazonians are some of the most educated Africans on the African continent, dispersed all over the world. That's one sitting there as a panelist here, and I must add that it's not the only one. You find another man sitting there in Pennsylvania, a cardiovascular surgeon of the first class, tried to run for the governor of Pennsylvania and came number 7. He could not even take care of his father's compound in my 5 Darinkun. Nsezama. I know him because he went to Sacred Heart like me. And I'm saying that until we get our homeland and get all this intelligentsia to come and for the rebuilding process of Ambazonia, I don't know what we're going to do. People like Dr. Lobati should start thinking about a medical school in Ambazonia, because there's no medical school in Ambazonia, no law school in Ambazonia, nothing. We have to start from the ground up, and we need the intelligentsia of Ambazonia, all of them, to ensure that they are ready to put in their all. I mean, all of us. Some of us may not live up to them, but put in their own to ensure that there's a very, very positive take-off of the state of the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. Thank you very much.
Vice Mbeseha, if I don't give you the chance,
thank you for giving me the opportunity once more. Say,
yes.
Thank you very much for giving us the CV of Dr. Lobati. And I want to add this. Maybe he will disagree with me. Dr. Lobati had the good luck. He was blessed by God to have gone through here one day and be given the opportunity to exit from that country and gotten to where he got and was exposed to what we have learned from him. And that will take me back a little bit on what we said. You see, maybe Pastor Nsoh will disagree with me. Activism is not synonymous to on education. Activists are well-educated people. The only difference is that the way they put out their matters. You might have a PhD in anything. The way you put out your
not all of them
is what makes
not all of them.
Let me finish that, sir. The way you put out the stuff is what makes you an activist. So when I said that he's an activist, it's not to downgrade his education.
It was not you who said it. It's Paddy who said it.
Let me finish my story.
Yes, go ahead, Pastor Mbeseha. Go ahead.
Okay. And that will take me to what she said. She said Africans have to set their priorities. And that will bring me to what you have introduced to us as Dr. Lobati. Say, if Africans, because I've tried to define what I understand to be Pan-Africanism, if Africans had to set their priority, that's how, because if, for example, we're in Ambazonia, if the Ambazonian problem is health, Dr. Lobati will come back home. But you don't just say a priority, you set a priority and you provide the technique, the resources on how to attend the priority. If Dr. Lobati came and set up a clinic in Chico, in Bamenda, which was dealing with infectious diseases, children from Chad will come there, children from the Congo, children from Nigeria will come there. That is Pan-Africanism. Because the structures are there, not just talking empty language. If the African priority, if they think, is trade, they think that one man is deceiving them, which is bound to deceive them because a trader goes to the market to make the best profit. They will have to, if that's their priority, they have to provide the resources for good trade. Create a railway system that will leave Yaoundé, will leave Douala and in Cairo, where you can ship the things there. Build a highway that can come from Kenya to Gabon. You provide the resources. The Gabonese, they remain Gabonese. The Ghanaians remain Ghanaians, but the resources are there to bring you do your Pan-Africanism. In trade, in medicine, in schooling, and everything that you can go with it. That's what I understand Pan-Africanism to mean. And again, all of us are agreed, there are many people in different fields, particularly Ambazonians. But until you set up a clinic, first in Bamenda, for example, where somebody will come from Buya and get there, where somebody will leave Indian and go there, you don't think of somebody who will leave Lagos and come to your clinic until you have one first that is saving Ambazonians. Until you dig a road and tie it from Dop to Banso, do you then contemplate of building a highway from Limbe to Cairo? That is what Pan-Africanism is. That is what African leaders should set their priorities, provide what is needed to the resources. They don't lack those resources.
I like what you're saying by Mbeseha, because you're trying to, I think even my pastor talks like that. You're putting Africans to task so that they are not putting themselves in a vulnerable position where there are loopholes, because China, for instance, and the others are not allowing these people to take advantage over them like Africa, because Africa needs to stand up. I'm very happy with that contribution you have made.
Let me just learn the last sentence.
Yeah,
See, we have been talking about, I went to Cote d'Ivoire, and during this program, we went around a civil society. The Ivorians asked, they were always complaining. The problem with Cote d'Ivoire was the economic agreement, the cooperation agreement of 1959. They complained all like that to me, and I asked a simple question, nobody answered. Since 1959, you disagree with these agreements. The parliament has been sitting in Abidjan for all the years. What prevents you from cancelling or modifying those agreements? They had no answers. Did the French prevent them? No, they didn't have the political will to do it. They refused to do it. The same thing with Yaoundé, the same thing with others. If you have the will to do it, we are now pressing Traoré. Traoré came and cancelled those things. The Nigerian man cancelled it, drove away the French ambassador who first said he was not going to go, but he left. So let Africans sit up, understand what they want, and do it the way you want. Not Yaoundé. If you want, like Pastor Nsoh said, you would always get Paul Biya until you refuse to get a person like him. If you don't get Paul Biya as a president in Cameroon, you get his duplicate. And so until they stand up for themselves and say, we do things for ourselves, we want the government, as Pastor Nsoh says, a government that is ours. Sit down, keep quiet, the French will do it for you. Sit down, keep quiet. I'll set up my shop in Yaoundé and steal all the money to Boya. Over to you.
That conclusive part there, Barrister Mbeseha, is very important, because that explains the spirit and the mindset of Ambazonians. You know, the war Ambazonia is currently fighting is not a war in a vacuum. These are people that have been emancipated hugely and thought that it is time for them to take responsibility. And it brings us to the topic of tonight that will conclude this conversation. And I will begin that with Commander Elvis, whom I expect to speak very elaborately. I want us to start from Homeland Security at the home front, the Self-Defense Initiative. We know that the government is trying to pitch Ambazonia to take advantage of this fast changing global village right now and the policies of the new sheriff in the White House. And one very strategic way to do that is to hold our ground, is to enforce our self-defense initiative, is to make sure that Yaounde's manipulative rhetoric that there is a return to normalcy really doesn't happen. Commander Elvis, I'm asking you right now, if you were to talk to the people of Ambazonia and talk to the world based on the work that your department and your team on the ground is doing, would you say that Ambazonia can be proud of their strategic plan on this domain, looking at these 3 months of the year? I'm talking to you, Commander Elvis. Please talk to us.
Yeah, Director Paddy, thank you for that great question. And I want to go back in the discussions.
Oh,
Those
I'm
were
sorry.
some great lectures, and I really appreciate them. Paddy, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, good. I want to also thank you again for that question, specifically because this question is something that also helps us in educate the greater public on what is being done to make sure that we succeed. I wish we had all the manpower that we had when the revolution initially started. Throughout these years, we have lost a lot of great men, servicemen and women. Majority of them, we lost them because they did not have the proper equipment. Some did not have, they were not well equipped to handle the situation at hand, and some were not properly educated to understand some of the traps that La Republic was setting up for them. We also understand that we lost some of our great warriors because we did not have proper intelligence to gather and share with them so they could be able to maneuver and evade the enemy or even attack them uh, when time rises. However, looking at where we are today, we are proud because we have actually gone through various stages. Remember when our Amazonian State Army were just basically fighters from every looking cranny, just picking up whatever they could to defend themselves. We tried to organize them under their counter structures so that they could better coordinate. It was a challenge. We had internal enemies that were fighting against us. But gradually, surely, we stabilized, and we can see that we have been able to hold our grounds on counties. There are some counties that have not been able to survive long term because the structure that they built was basically based on individuals, not on a structure per se. And once that individual passed on, the whole thing just collapsed. However, as ANSC, we understand that the long-term strategic interest of our nation starts with us building strong foundations. Those strong foundations are the same as those institutions that we're building and we're restoring. We're making sure that our Ambazonian State Army have a chain of command, that these chain of command follow the code of conducts, and these are all principles that are guiding them in war. They are also trainings that are provided to make sure that we do not fall privy to some of those mistakes that we had in the past. At this present juncture, we have some counties that have been pretty much silent. That doesn't mean that the revolution is not existing there. We do have some counties, for example, we could think of a county like Kupim Manigara. We could even think of a county like, let's say, Menchum. But nevertheless, we still have our forces there. It's just that sometimes when your condition is not the best, you have to lay low so that you can regroup and come back up when the time is right. So for that, we cannot really express more information. But rest assured that the Ambazonian National Self-Defense Council is working diligently day and night, making sure that we continue to recruit and train our forces so that they are capable and ready for the task. We are, of course, proud of some counties, especially a county like Bui County, Tunja, Ndonga, and especially those in, I would say, in the Savannah zone, who have actually stood their grounds. We are watching with dismay some of the things and happenings in Mezam, which has been very challenging. Matter of fact, we have lost some great service members who have gone to defend Mezam. And we are looking for all the strategies and everything's on the table to make sure that we turn the tables around in that part of our country. FACO has been strong. We also understand that as of now, the enemy has been planning to use the capital, our capital, to be able to stage some political activities there. So we are making everything possible for Ambazonian State Army to be ready and at any time intervene and stop any plan by the enemy to interfere in the activities of our nation. Also, Ambazonia, as of today, is in a better place going forward. We have seen the development of a new technology, the technology that has been able to save lives. We have seen also the fact that this technology, ever since it was developed, I'm talking about the popcorn technology, it has been able to shut down the Republic armor cars, where our forces are able to strike from a distance without actually coming face to face with the enemy. We are very grateful for every state army that has, Ambazonian State Army, that has continued to, train and make sure that they have these materials readily available for them. We cannot thank the civilian population enough. They have been the eyes and the ears of the Ambazonian State Army. They know they are their children. They protect them with every little might that they have, and we only encourage them to continue to do so. That is their first line of defense. It is their civilian population, and that is why we continue to always advise them. So you need to care for your population. Make sure that your civilians are properly taken care of. If there are issues that need to be handled, handle them with humanity. Make sure that you understand that they're the ones you're defending, and they're not your enemies. So you can also make sure that you watch out for the enemy using all the tactics to invade their civilian population. The civilian population will be able to identify them for you, and you just pick them up for detention or whatever questioning. So the Ambazonian State Army has rapidly developed into a very lethal force. It is true that we might still have some elements of internal saboteurs, like we see whenever our forces regroup and realign. There's always some external factor that comes into play and tries to divide them. That has been the strategy that the enemy has used and successfully dismantled our forces into a large extent, which is the strategy of divide and conquer. And this division always tries to come from within. Anytime we have a division from ourselves in the diaspora, that division kicks into the fighters on the ground. And when they're divided, that keeps them away from being able to attack the enemy as one, and they end up giving themselves as easy targets for the enemy. So our strength
No,
also
Commander
lies
Elvis,
in
I'm
our
not cutting you
ability.
short. Commander Elvis, I'm not
Yes,
cutting you short, but I want to ask you this precise question so that we can
yeah.
we can progress cohesively. Looking at your strategic implementation on the ground as we speak, and Cameroon, I'm talking for these first 3 months of the year that is ending in a few hours time. And the fact that the Yaoundé government is trying by every available means opportunity to tell the world that they can contain this war and that that normalcy is returning. What would you have to say to Ambazonians confidently if you look at this first quarter of the year in retrospect? Is there any hope? Do you think that Cameroon has the authority, moral authority, to make such claims?
Absolutely not. There is no way Cameroon can make such claims over Ambazonia. Just this month of March alone, La République has registered way over 30 La République service members. At least, I'm talking at least 30. Um, our Ambazonian State Army has had one of the greatest harvests, I mean, retrieving weapons from La République this month than in any other time. And that success alone points to the fact that we are in a rising tide, that the momentum has changed. Our forces have realigned, they've adjusted themselves, and they're actually making it hard for the enemy. Yes, they might have one or two successes along the way, but the momentum is clearly on our side. We understand that they are trying everything possible to project themselves as, winning us. Even lately, we saw the situation in Mezam where they tried to sneak in and organize a political rally. We know that they are trying to do the same in our state capital, Fako. All these are in attempts to project that they are in control of the situation, but that is not far from the truth. We know that our Amazonian State Army are capable. Maybe sometimes the resources might not have been there on time for them to act, but rest assured that with the draft that is ongoing and the contributions that are pouring in, the Ambazonian State Army will be provided with the necessary resources to handle whatever situation that they are faced with. And come rain, come shine, La République would pack and they would get out of our land one way or the other. So again, I think I answered your question that we are definitely on the rise, and the momentum is on our side looking at the past 3 months, and there is nothing that La République can lay claim to indicate that they are in charge. Thank you.
Amazing. That is as you could see, that's the security chief of Bui County that is making Ambazonia proud in a very tremendous way. Like I say all the time, I enjoy talking with them, talking with Shea Yimbu, because the mindset of a leader will tell you the results of that leader, and you can now understand why Bui is kind of exceptional. You've heard from him actually telling you that they've gone to the extent of deploying service members. He's talking about state army officials on the ground to Mezam to try to bring some stability. Even though they have lost some lives, I was particularly aware because during that time we had an arrest of some civilians that were released because they suspected them of being enablers. But the Ambazonian State Army apprehended them, interviewed them, and ended up releasing them when the facts they needed were taken. So I was aware when some of these intelligent officers were sent to Mezam and other states in Ambazonia, counties in Ambazonia, to ensure that there could be some security and cohesion. Now, I want us to look at it from the extension of the impact that the state army is creating on the ground. It is alleged that one of the reasons the Trump administration is putting the BS government to task and setting them on the yellow zone is because of the war and the fact that Cameroonian government is non-compliant to the state department's provisions for human rights report. Dr. Fred, I would begin with you. You want to look at these 90 days in retrospect. Would you be proud of Ambazonia and the global scene? And would you think that our strategy is bearing some fruit?
Yeah, I believe that the actions on the ground speak for themselves. From the little that I've gathered, I saw how our boys tremendously, basically neutralized the Republic du Cameroon military, not only in Bui, in so many other spots in Ambazonia. Few of our people, much fewer of our people have been killed. Thank goodness for that. And I pray less and less or none of them in the future. In fact, the situation has reached a point where the French are the ones now trying to bring peace as soon as possible. The ambassador went to Bamenda and said that in the next few months, peace will reign or come back to the English-speaking nations, because it's France that is waging this war using La République du Cameroun. That's why he's saying that. And he who was speaking is a military general put in there as ambassador of France. And basically, they know that Trump is a no-nonsense man, and he says he likes to bring peace where there is war, like in the Ukraine. So if La République is trying to carry out atrocities of war again in our land, it highlights the situation, and Trump will come in there to bring peace. But the US and Trump's administration, they already know everything about what has happened. He was there when this thing started, and he even went to the United Nations and mentioned the situation when La République was confiscating satellite connections in Tahtinnyuy. He talked about the government is going around seizing satellites so that people should not get information. So they know about it. Even the Secretary of State is very aware of all what is going on. He's originally from Cuba, so he understands about dictatorships. And Thibault Naj, people call him Naj, I call him Nagy, but anyway, he was co-opted back into the Trump administration. He knows our situation going right far back to the 1990s when Fru won the elections. He was in Cameroon in the American embassy and knows the facts about all what happened. The Western nations knew that Fru won and the elections were rigged, and Fru bribed to become what he calls an opposition person. So he has the facts, and he is now back in administration working with the Secretary of State from Florida, who is originally from Cuba. And what I think is that this administration is more sympathetic to us than the Biden was. We hope, I pray, that before they leave office, they will do something in our favor to actualize our independence. The French know that. They know that he's a no-nonsense man. And that's why they are trying to make like there's no war, hoping that they can calm things down and continue controlling the situation. But I think that our footing is in the right place. We thank God for everybody who has been reaching out to the Trump administration on our behalf and acting or pushing the limits to get us our case heard and liberated. And I think that something positive will happen by the end of these 4 years. This is just less than 100 days. A lot has happened. I know people in the United States are going through a lot of hardship. The economy has gone upside down. For those who are invested in the stock market, they have had significant losses. I hope that things will stabilize with time. But this is the things just changed overnight. It's almost like we just went from a night to daylight, or from one season to another, from winter to spring, and suddenly we'll be in summer. That's how things changed here in the United States. I think that we are on good ground regarding this administration and Ambazonia, and I pray that we'll bear good fruits, good results at the end. Because the man in Yaoundé is old, he's going to die. The French can try to manipulate and bring somebody in his place, but they will not succeed.
Amazing. Barrister Fru and Barrister Mbeseha, will commence with you, Barrister Mbeseha. When we look at immigrants from all around the world, particularly Ambazonians, who are fleeing from the cruelty of the Bulu administration and thinking that they could get refuge here in the United States of America, some of them might be thinking that the government of Donald Trump is not doing anything that would be of their favor. But you gentlemen and the government of Ambazonia believe so well that this administration is creating platforms that will facilitate the recognition of Ambazonia as a nation, and will probably oblige the Biya government to meet us on a table of negotiation. Now, I want us to look at this first 90 days of the first quarter of this year, 2025, in projection of Donald Trump's first 100 days in office. Would you say, Barrister Mbeseha, that you are confident in Ambazonia's strategic approach in light with diplomacy, advocacy, and probably even the defense? We've heard Commander Elvis speak a lot, but and the diplomatic efforts are relaying their claims based on what Ambazonia State Army is doing on the ground. Would you be confident looking into the eyes of Ambazonians to tell them that we are on the right track? Barrister Mbeseha, please.
Well, without making an evaluation of 90 days, because it's not your time, I would say that we're on the right track. In the last segment, Newsflash, a similar question came up. And my remark was that the international community might be silent, but they are not sleeping. Their eyes are open. That's a lot in that. We can only say what we know. And for what we know, I think we're on the best track. These are two examples. You see, Dr. Lobati said, but let me just add, that in the past 6 months or 8 months, the French ambassador has been to Bamenda twice. For what? Dealing with what they call Northwest-Southwest crisis, Nsoh. It is not easy for an ambassador to move out of the base twice in 6 months for the same reason. The thing is not going well for Yaoundé. Looking back again from what we know publicly, we have all known that since the beginning of this crisis, most particularly from 2019, people like our own brothers, Archbishop Andrew Nkia, and the retired moderator have been advocates for Yaoundé. But this week, they come out loudly challenging Yaoundé in terms of roads. But there's a lot to read into what they say. They are telling Yaoundé things are not working. And Archbishop Andrew asked, what did the Womb people do? What have these people done wrong? By extension, what did Ambazonia do wrong? And I earlier said, the world is watching. The Archbishop and the moderator are also foreign diplomats. They have a lot of foreign alliances. The world is watching. The world is not sleeping. So we're on the right track. Just to tell you, I wanted to remind them that the 2 cubes of sugar are refused to melt. 7, 8 years into the struggle, they have not melted. If you see Yaoundé, they are scratching their head. That's what we know. There's a lot we don't know diplomatically. And the time will come when we know it. Why is it still boiling? It is because, as per Commander Elvis, we are putting them to the test. It's not easy for them. As per Dr. Lobati, we are putting the dots, putting the corners diplomatically where they're supposed to be put. Let us remain encouraged. We're on the right track. Over to you.
Barrister Fru, please.
Yes, Paddy. Diplomacy is quiet. It doesn't talk. It produces only results in the end. Anybody would think that the international community is quiet on the issue of the Southern Cameroons. I say that it may be wrong, because the actions of the new administration in Washington has changed the diplomatic route of the United States around the world. If you look at what is happening in Ukraine, the idea is to stop the war. I would suspect that is the same thing that's going to happen to the Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, and La Republic of Cameroon. Stop the war and leave these people because we voted for them. You did not respect the engagement, even if it's 60 years old. I am very hopeful that diplomacy will deliver and we'll be home. Another thing that encourages me is the rise of the Ambazonian State Army. The efficiency in which they operate now, the precision in which they operate now gives me hope that La Republique is going to throw in the towel. Because the signs are very clear. A French ambassador who is a general, a military general himself, went to Bamenda the first time about 6 months ago, or sometime in September, October, because the U.S. elections were heating up, the campaigns were on. The French were worried that the tables may turn. So they started preparing the ground. He went to Bamenda. He said nothing about the war. He promised money to develop Ambazonia. Where is the money? He came back, and when this last time, when the Trump administration was already in power, why did he go? He went to inform the people of the Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, that the Anglophone crisis, as they call it, will end. But he added a nuance. It will be resolved taking cognizance of the fact that Ambazonia is part of La Republic of Cameroon. And that annoyed me. But the bare fact that he went, it was like a preemptive action. Because if they don't start working on the ground to be the ones to bring about the end of this war, if the Trump administration enters, France is out. So I am confident. I am very confident that this year is our own. If we miss it this year, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I will be the first victim, to tell you the truth.
That's amazing. The interesting part is the results are there for all to see. Commander Elvis, I'm going to be bringing the microphone back to you in conclusion. This Wednesday, we'll be having an exclusive interview with the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Immediately after this program, we'll officially send out the publicity for that program. And the President is coming not just to give us more information about some work that has been done for the year 2025 within these 3 months, but also to make a projection in preparation for the federal government's second phase of the federal draft on Saturday the 5th. The President will be telling us what, as Ambazonians, we need to expect, or what we have to do in the second quarter of the year 2025, which you've all heard. Everybody in this panel being hopeful that it takes a collective commitment. So you have mentioned some collaboration on the ground. New fighters, when Commander Willie was here, he told us that even some fighters that we thought had gone in hibernation and now resurfacing responsibility. What would you require Ambazonians, both at the home front and in the diaspora, to do that can help this unity, much needed collaboration on the ground? Where I was excited to hear you communicating with General Olebro on the aspect of the ID cards. I was also excited to hear him pledging his loyalty and calling the president our papa in the house. And that's what all Ambazonians want to hear. What would you expect us Ambazonians to do, both at home and in the diaspora, to help this necessary collaboration of the genuine Ambazonian fighters that are willing to stay the ground and to help this liberation process? Talk to us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Tarh Paddy, for that question. Again, here we were talking more specifically about the chain of command. Once you have a chain of command, it means that you have an order in place where how you could proceed with either complaints or they can help you with a structure. It's something that is structured, where it has like a standard operation procedure that kind of helps you to know where to go when you have issues, and you can seek guidance and advice in a chain of command, just like they have within the army. Our forces on the ground, they have a chain of command. They just like in each barrack, they have a general or major general. They have a captain. They have their mission commanders. They have their secretaries. They have their cooks. So all of our forces are advised to also structure themselves, so we don't rely on any one individual. So that if he falls on the battlefield, that continuity keeps going. That chain of commands goes through your county. You're supposed to make sure that you align with your local government area and your county, because that gives some kind of accountability. The people in that community, they understand that the fighters that are defending them, that they're defending them, are people that they're for their interest. They are not people that have come from somewhere, but they're people that are individuals from that community, the county, the local government areas, and then it moves up, of course, to the federal level. So if we are structured like that, where each fighter respects their county, respects their local government area and their authority, then we are more structured in a way that we can handle a lot of these divisions that have taken place. However, we also have the Ambazonian State Army. All Ambazonian state armies that they have the form. Like you could hear Major General Onlibro explaining that is a defense unit where defense matters are discussed in there. Defense related matters are separate from civilian matters. There are issues that when it concerns commanders, like strategies, how to implement those strategies, those are discussed in defense, secure houses. And we advise all commanders to make sure that they are part of that defense house, and they are part of the ASA, so they don't miss out in very critical information. We have somebody like our General Hadnock, who comes out almost on a weekly basis, pouring out educative materials for their fighters, making sure that we continuously educate them so that they stay in the right lane. So these are the structures and the chain of command that we expect to make sure that all our forces understand, and that will help them from not going astray. In most cases, we've seen fighters that go and join or follow some individuals because they lack the proper knowledge and proper education to know where that chain of command is and how they relate to that chain of command. Even when it comes to resources, that is why the president is out there driving for resources, being the, our bearer rather, in making sure that he gets resources available for our Ambazonian State Army. So those resources will go through your county, they will go through your chair people, they'll go through your defense representative, and you'll be able to get those funds that you need if you are also able to stand under your structure and defend it with pride. You are defending your nation. So there's no reason why an Ambazonian State Army should be ashamed to identify themselves as somebody standing proud to defend his or her people. So That is the chain of command that we are looking forward to, making sure that we educate our fighters to, stick under.
Commander Elvis, I want to
There's
stay with you. I
sure.
want to stay with you a little bit because this is where we're going to conclude the program. And it's important because we are just a week away of the federal government draft phase 2 that will be hosted by the Midlands. We've had some individuals, I would say of individuals, who are trying to sabotage the effort of the federal government draft, probably because the opportunities or the opportunities were taken away from them. And they have sabotaged the effort by claiming that the funds that have been collected from the federal government draft within the past 2 years have been misappropriated. We've had the president coming out to talk about that. But maybe what the president says is not sufficient enough to confirm if these resources are put into effective use. You are a commander, you at least have a good knowledge on the hardware sponsored probably by the government in not just the county of Bui, but on different counties or in different counties in Ambazonia. What would you have to say in this regard before we ask the president these hard questions on Wednesday in projection of Saturday? Talk to us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Director Party. If somebody that has not been involved in the process of how you help acquire materials, be it for humanitarian purposes, to our farmers, would not understand the challenges that you face. I remember the president once said, once whatever you send out of here leaves your hand, you literally have no other control. You are actually, faithfully hoping that it delivers the result that it was promised. Maybe 70% out of 100 times you will be lucky and you get your results delivered. But there are also circumstances where you fall prey to some of those thieves that have successfully infiltrated our systems to, siphon us of our funds. We understand that that is the enemy's most important target, is to make sure that they target our resources and cut those resources away from us. So in some cases, there are still individuals or groups that would uh, cajole us, act like they are some of us, just so they can siphon our funds. We have been very vigilant now. The strategy changed. You can remember the president did come out last time and said, guess what? Once bit, twice shy. We have seen a lot of commanders that were out here that have either misused the funds, and this time around we'll be sending funds directly to the fighters on the ground after making initial contacts. There has been some results. We do not deny that, but we also see some challenges there. So we at the ANSC we had a great meeting with the president. We discussed some of these strategies in detail. We fine-tuned it, and we made sure that going forward we continue to be more efficient and effective at what we do. So going forward, I am pretty certain that some of the mistakes that were made will not be made again. We also know that we have had great progress in the hardware, like you said. Some of these things are very strategic in nature that cannot be discussed in public. And we are grateful to the understanding that such be kept as defense secrets. However, we can only plead with the Ambazonia people that those resources are being utilized frugally. There is no circumstance where somebody would intentionally, misuse funds. But we do have situations that also happen where the funds can, uh, go missing. That does not mean you didn't try. It's easy. It's a calculated risk that we have to take. But that is not our wish. So basically, there has been great progress made. We continue to get our resources supplied. There's some cases where those resources resources have been available, but the financial backings are not there. If you see some of our fighting dies down in some places, it's also because they have not had the resources in most cases. You know, we mentioned some of these counties where some individuals have successfully, you know, I can say break the spinal cord of our fighting force there. You know, for them to be able to survive, some of them have just laid low so that the tsunami can pass over. It would not be, they say, a soldier is he who, you know, who can run away today and come back to fight tomorrow. If you do not have the resources, there's really no reason going there to attack the enemy with bare hands. You just lay low and regroup yourself and you know, come back again when you have what it takes to defend or fight the enemy. So we are doing everything possible to recollect ourselves, to strategize, and it is working great for us. And we are proud in the direction that the nation has taken in the last couple of months. And Ambazonia can rest assured that we are coming back stronger than ever before. Ambazonia is real. Thank you, Commander Paddy.
That is an amazing one there. I want to thank you Commander Elvis, for creating the time to be with us in the studio. I'd also like to thank Dr. Fred Lobati, Dr. Barrister Mbeseha, and Barrister Fru John Nsoh for making out the time to have us educated. And like I said, we would have been educated more than enough this evening. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. This is where we're going to call it. I just want to repeat some announcements. We're going to be sending out the publicity for this program right after this production. The president of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia will be having an exclusive interview with us here in the studio on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Ambazonian time, and we are hoping that everybody will tune in. I want you to, we'll send out a flyer right immediately. The media department is just indicating that the flyer or publicity for this program has been made ready. So we'll be having an exclusive interview with the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia on Wednesday, the 2nd of April, the very second, number 2 day of the month of April. The President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia will be talking to Ambazonians, probably giving to us a recollection of every achievement of the year 2025 so far. What has the people of Ambazonia collectively done, and what has the government been able to front that is restoring some hope and strategically creating new partnership, breaking and knocking doors, and what is expected from you, the Ambazonians, and from the government ahead of the first 100 days of the sheriff in Washington, D.C., that Ambazonia is relying a lot on in their strategic diplomatic efforts. So I look forward to seeing you all on Wednesday again. I think that will be the only day you might find me on the screens. I will be with the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. We will try to present a more cohesive summary of these 90 days with some of our reporters. We're already working on that. We'll consult all the departments that are involved to get some real details, and the newsroom particularly to give us information that is required. So I repeat again, we'll be having the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia join ABC on Wednesday, the 2nd of April at exactly 8 p.m. Ambazonian time, to make a statement to the public and to take some questions. And do remember that on Saturday, the 5th of April, will be the phase 2 of the federal government federal draft that will be hosted by the Midland zone. So we're hoping that the leaders of the different counties like Manu, like Mbeseha, are working very hard to mobilize their constituencies and to see that the president and the federal government are received with much respect that they deserve. It is at that juncture that we'll be calling it a quit for this evening. But I will be back again, like I said. I'll be back with the president on Wednesday at exactly 8 p.m. Ambazonia time. We're calling on all those who have not been able to subscribe to try to contact us to subscribe with ABC Amba television subscription website. I tell people, talk is cheap, but action isn't. The best way we can counter any vicious movement or vicious activity, the best way to silence wannabes, ignorance, who are trying to mislead vulnerables and probably to project Ambazonia globally as a laughing stock, is in what we do, not just what we say. It is time for us, if you're vexed enough as a supporter of this platform, and you are vexed enough of what is happening by those whom a few days ago you trusted and thought that this could probably be potential leaders, but their actions are a form of betrayal. If you are vexed enough by the so-called platforms that you know are contravening in our collective efforts, if you're vexed enough, I'm calling you to double your efforts, triple your efforts, your donations towards ABC Amba television now. There is no platform in the Cameroons, no platform. I say this with every pride in my chest, or on my chest. There's no platform in the Cameroons that's speaking the truth to the international community about the actuality on the ground in that sub-African region and in that triangle like ABC Amba TV. Without ABC Amba TV, the war would have better been postponed to the next 50 years because we're not leaving any stone unturned. If you're not a club member, you're not a patron, and you love what we do, you want to support it. It's not just about looking at our little errors or mistakes. We're not perfect. If I would apologize for some of the shortcomings that this platform would have had, we want to thank those who believe in the fact that we are competent enough to make some deliveries, and they have contributed their mites, their bits to sustain the platform. And we want to welcome many more people who believe that Ambazonia will win the war on the ground, win it diplomatically, and will win the media warfare. To join the chariots and make your donations now. Until Wednesday, keep donating to ABC Amba TV. Bye-bye.
Stand with Ambazonia. Empower ABC Amba TV. We are calling on Ambazonians around the world to unite and uplift ABC Amba TV, Ambazonian Broadcasting Corporation. In this critical time of war, ensuring the station's survival is more important than ever. But what does ABC Amba TV truly represent for Ambazonia?
At the heart of Ambazonia's war of independence, ABC Amba TV stands as a beacon. Years of recolonization, annexation, and French Cameroon's oppressive occupation of the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia have led to our exclusion. Our identity was hidden, our history distorted, our sovereignty denied.
Queen of England is aware that the British Southern Cameroons were never a colony under France.
Since its inception in 2018, ABC Amba TV has been our lifeline.
Months of diplomacy have failed to resolve the crisis as fear grows over an imminent Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Our work in the dark is our chance to tell our stories to the world, to give voice to the voiceless and broadcast the truth of our struggle.
We are serious about executing this revolution.
It has become a vital arm of our government in wartime, making diplomacy achievable and showcasing our untold stories.
ABC Amba, you guys know how important ABC is for this, our quest for international recognition.
Your donations can make a world of difference. Every bit of support helps keep our stories alive, our presence known, and our fight in the global conversation.
The moment they notice that we are no longer on air, they think that, oh, maybe La Republic has succeeded. This is about Ambazonia. One thing we must always remember.
Where would we be without ABC Amba TV? Let's ensure we never have to find out.
A revolution is a temporary state of insanity to bring about sanity.
Mobilize, donate, stand with Ambazonia. Donate to ABC Amba TV.
Together, let's write the next chapter of our history.
It is better to light the candle than to curse the dark.
Support ABC Amba TV campaign. Ambazonia Independence, voice for the voiceless. Mobilize for change.